Imagine staring into a mirror and believing the reflection you see is an exact copy of yourself. But what if I told you that this reflection is not truly you? It's a reversed illusion, a delayed shadow of your movements, subtly deceiving your brain into thinking your face and expression are constant when they are not. Mirrors don't show reality. They show a flipped version of it. Scientifically, a mirror reverses the left and right sides of your image. This lateral inversion means that the side of your face you perceive as left is actually the right side of the reflected image. This reversal distorts how you perceive symmetry, which is why photographs often look off compared to your mirror image. You've grown familiar with the reversed version, not your true appearance, but the trick runs deeper. The reflection you see is not instantaneous. Light has to travel from your face to the mirror and then bounce back to your eyes, introducing a tiny delay, about a few nanoseconds. While imperceptible, this delay means the mirror shows a slightly older version of your movements, never the exact present moment. Consider this. When you wave your hand, you see the reflection wave back, but in perfect reverse. Your brain expects to see your hand move as it does in reality, yet the mirror flips every motion laterally, creating an illusion of symmetry that is fundamentally false. This subtle delay and inversion shape your self-image, influencing your perception of identity and reality. You trust a version of yourself that's a backward echo, a fraction out of sync with time. The mirror becomes less a tool for truth and more a canvas of illusions, hiding the true face you never fully see. Next time you look in the mirror, remember, the image staring back is a reversed, delayed illusion, a stranger masquerading as your own face. Imagine that time is not a river you move through, but something more like a skin shedding off your back, each moment slipping silently behind you, layering like forgotten possibilities stacked in the dark. This isn't mere metaphor. Physics tells us that time's flow is complex and layered. According to relativity, time is relative to your movement and gravity. You don't traverse time in a straight line. Instead, your present moment continuously leaves behind countless versions of what could have been, like echoes in a vast, invisible archive. In quantum mechanics, the idea of multiple possibilities coexisting, superposition, implies that for every decision, countless timelines sprout. Although you only experience one, the others drip away, left behind like old skin. Your perception only moves forward, but time itself might be more fluid and fragmented. Consider memories. They are not perfect recordings, but reconstructions, shadows of past moments. They pile up in your brain, fragmented and fading, much like those lost possibilities of time. Scientists have discovered that our brains can't hold every instant perfectly. Instead, some details are dropped, forgotten, or overwritten. This cognitive pileup mirrors how time slips behind us, creating layers of forgotten realities. Even the famous block universe theory suggests all points in time exist simultaneously, but we experience only a thin, moving slice. The rest, the past and future, are fixed, layered behind us or ahead, unreachable, yet still present in some form. So, you never truly move through time. Instead, time drips and stacks behind you like a silent, invisible cloak of missed chances and forgotten moments, always accumulating, always there, yet out of reach. This deep, layered nature of time challenges how we perceive our own existence, identity, and choice itself. Imagine your mind as a dark room where every thought you think flickers like a candle. But those flickers don't just vanish, they leave invisible shadows behind. These shadows are echoes of your ideas, faint but persistent, shaping your next thoughts and decisions without you even noticing. Neuroscience reveals that every mental event triggers neural patterns that don't just disappear. They influence the brain's wusshearing, biasing future cognition. This is not mere philosophy. It's hard science showing how past thoughts sculpt present free will. Consider cognitive biases. They are the mental footprints of previous ideas, subtly steering your judgments. When you hesitate, doubt, or cling to a belief, you're feeling the pull of these thought shadows, ghosts that haunt your perceived autonomy. Even your creativity is a dance with these echoes, where past inspirations ripple through your present ideas. Studies in brain plasticity show these shadows solidify into mental habits, creating feedback loops that reinforce certain thinking patterns. This means your mind is less a blank slate and more a haunted gallery, where the ghosts of every thought influence what you believe you freely choose. Free will is a spectrum, shaped by these echoes, reminding us that even the wildest ideas have roots in past shadows. Understanding this deepens our grasp of consciousness, how we are both creators and prisoners of our own mental echoes. Imagine waking up every day and putting on a mask. Not just any mask, but one crafted from countless reflections, imitations, and memories. This mask is your personality, a carefully stitched costume formed from social mirrors and experiences. Neuroscience tells us that our brain constantly adapts to external feedback, learning what behaviors gain acceptance or approval. From childhood, we mimic parents, peers, and society, internalizing gestures, speech patterns, and attitudes until they become second nature. But beneath this performance lies a quieter observer, your core self, often unnoticed and overshadowed by the roles you play. Psychological studies on identity reveal this hidden self is fluid, shifting with context, sometimes suppressed by social expectations. This dissonance can cause a sense of alienation, where who you truly are feels distant from the personality you display. Even brain imaging shows different neural networks activate when we behave authentically versus when we perform socially. Your personality isn't a fixed truth, but a living costume, crafted to navigate the complex social world. Recognizing this can be liberating, because beneath the mask, your true self quietly watches, waiting to emerge beyond the roles imposed by memory and mimicry. Imagine your memories as a constantly shifting story, not a fixed recording. Every time you recall a moment, your brain doesn't replay a perfect tape. Instead, it rebuilds the scene, blending fragments from the past with new details and emotions. This process, known as memory reconsolidation, means your past isn't static. It's alive, editable, and subject to change. Scientists have shown that when memories are recalled, they become malleable and can be influenced by current thoughts, feelings, or even misinformation. For example, eyewitness testimonies often change after repeated questioning, demonstrating how memory can distort reality. Similarly, recalling a joyful event during a sad time might alter the emotional tone you attach to that memory, subtly rewriting its significance. This remixing isn't a flaw. It's a feature that helps your brain update your understanding of the world and yourself, integrating new experiences with old ones. But it also means your sense of identity, built from these memories, is fluid. Each retelling reshapes who you are, blurring the line between past and present. So the moment you think you're remembering exactly as it happened, you're really creating a new version, unique to you, right now. This insight challenges our trust in memory as a perfect archive and opens profound questions about the nature of reality and self. What you remember is never truly behind you. It's a living narrative, rewritten every time you look back. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that what you call reality isn't an absolute truth, but a fragile agreement, a consensus shaped by collective belief rather than undeniable certainty. Reality, as we experience it, is often less about objective facts and more about what most people choose not to question. It's a majority vote of the mind, a shared illusion upheld by silent mutual consent. Science shows us that perception itself is a construction. Our senses filter, interpret, and sometimes distort information before presenting it to our conscious mind. The world we see, hear, and feel is mediated through neural pathways shaped by evolution, culture, and expectation. This means what's real to one person may not be to another, because reality is filtered through subjective experience. Take social realities. Money, laws, social norms, None of these exist independently in nature. They survive only because society agrees to treat them as true and unchangeable. The color of money, the power of a government, the value of an idea, all are collective constructs sustained by belief, reinforced daily through shared actions. Even scientific truths evolve as new data emerges and old theories are challenged. What was once accepted as fact can become obsolete, showing that certainty is always provisional. Reality shifts not just with discovery, but with what the majority is willing to accept as valid knowledge. This majority vote reality binds societies, cultures, and individuals into a shared framework. But it also blinds us. We rarely question the foundations of our perceived truths because dissent threatens the delicate balance of consensus. And yet, every revolution, every paradigm shift, begins when someone dares to doubt what everyone else takes for granted. So, ask yourself how much of your reality is truly certain, and how much is simply the echo of a collective agreement too fragile to face scrutiny. Imagine your habits aren't truly your own. They are pre-installed behavioral loops running beneath your awareness, quietly steering your choices without your conscious command. This isn't just a poetic idea, it's backed by neuroscience. Our brains rely heavily on automatic behaviors, called procedural memory, which form the foundation of habits. These loops develop through repetition and become deeply wired, taking over everyday decisions to save cognitive energy. When you wake up, brush your teeth, or drive a familiar route, your brain activates these habitual circuits without much thought. This frees up your conscious mind to focus on complex tasks, but it also means many choices are no longer deliberate. Studies show that up to 45% of daily actions are habits, not conscious decisions. Moreover, evolutionary biology explains why this design exists. Automatic loops helped our ancestors survive by enabling fast reactions without mental delay, but in modern life, these ingrained loops can trap us, repeating behaviors we no longer want or that harm us. Psychologists call this the habit loop. A cue triggers a routine, leading to a reward which reinforces the cycle. Over time, this loop becomes deeply embedded, often bypassing conscious control altogether. That's why changing a habit feels like fighting your own brain. Yet understanding this design also offers power. By consciously altering cues or rewards, you can reprogram these loops, replacing unwanted habits with better ones. Awareness is the key that interrupts automatic cycles. So when you find yourself repeating actions without thinking, remember, your brain is running a pre-installed program designed to conserve energy and efficiency. You repeat by design, but you can also rewrite that design with intention. Imagine your reality isn't a simple snapshot, but a complex puzzle your brain tirelessly deciphers. What you see, hear, and feel isn't raw truth. It's an interpretation layered through biology's intricate filters. Your eyes don't passively receive light. They translate photons into electrical signals. Then your brain decodes those signals using prior knowledge, expectations, and survival instincts. This biological encryption means you never experience the world as it is, only as your nervous system allows. Visual illusions, for example, expose these decoding layers. Your brain fills in gaps, alters shapes, and colors to make sense of incomplete data. Even emotions tint perception, shaping how you interpret sounds or faces. Neuroscience shows the brain actively predicts and corrects sensory input, like a constant decoding algorithm adjusting reality on the fly. This explains why two people witnessing the same event can perceive it entirely differently. Reality is a subjective construction, a translation shaped by evolution's priorities and your personal history. Recognizing this forces us to question the certainty of our senses and embrace the fluid, interpreted nature of existence. You are not just living in reality, you are living inside your brain's profound, ongoing act of translation. Imagine sitting in complete silence, no sounds, no distractions. But in truth, the universe never stops humming. Your brain filters this constant symphony, editing out frequencies that don't help you survive. Neuroscience reveals that what we perceive as silence is actually a carefully crafted illusion. Our auditory system is wired to ignore predictable, non-threatening background noise, a process called sensory gating. This filtering conserves mental energy and prevents overload, allowing focus on important signals like footsteps or voices. Even when you think you hear nothing, your ears capture sounds far beyond human perception, including electromagnetic vibrations and tiny environmental shifts. Studies with fMRI show the brain remains active during silence, processing these subtle cues beneath conscious awareness. So silence isn't emptiness, it's a shadowed chorus that your brain silences to protect you. This unseen hum connects you to a larger reality, always present but mostly hidden. What we call silence is not absence, it's selective hearing, a survival strategy carved by evolution. Beneath stillness, the universe whispers, and your mind chooses what to let in. Imagine living a moment that's already behind you. Your sense of now is actually a carefully crafted playback. Our brain processes sensory information with tiny delays, milliseconds behind the real event, to weave chaos into clarity. This post-processing allows your mind to create a seamless, meaningful experience from fragmented signals arriving at different speeds. For example, when you catch a ball, your brain integrates sight, sound, and touch, timing them perfectly despite each arriving asynchronously. This built-in delay means you never perceive reality instantaneously. Instead, you live slightly in the past, a curated version designed for survival and understanding. Studies show this lag is essential. Without it, the sensory world would be disjointed and confusing. Even so, your consciousness convinces you the moment is happening now. This reveals that present is not a fixed point, but a reconstruction, a perceptual tapestry woven from recent moments shaped by prediction and interpretation. Your experience is less a direct feed and more a masterpiece edited for coherence and meaning. This insight challenges our intuitive sense of immediacy and raises profound questions. How much of what you live is actually real, and how much is the brain's crafted story? The present is always a slightly delayed remix, reminding us that perception is not mere observation, but active creation. Imagine hearing your name whispered in a crowded room, and in that instant, your entire sense of self shifts, subtly yet profoundly. Your name isn't just a label, it's a trigger, a spell woven into your consciousness that activates an identity protocol deep within your mind. Each time someone says your name, your brain flickers to life, recalling the complex web of memories, expectations, and roles that define who you believe you are, or who others expect you to be. Neuroscience reveals that names are powerful cognitive anchors. When you hear your name, the brain's default mode network ignites, weaving together emotional responses, social conditioning, and personal history. This activation is automatic and instantaneous. It's why your attention snaps sharply when someone calls you, even in a noisy environment. Your name has a magnetic pull on your awareness. But this protocol goes beyond mere recognition. It enforces social scripts. Your name summons the version of yourself shaped by culture, family, and experience. It reminds you of your roles, friend, sibling, professional, or any identity you've internalized. This mental pattern is so ingrained that even silence from others can feel like a rejection of the self your name conjures. Consider the transformative power of a name change. When someone adopts a new name, their identity protocol rewires, opening the door to new possibilities, shedding old narratives, and reshaping self-perception. It's a mental reset encoded by language and memory. Your name is more than sound. It's a spell, a cognitive key that unlocks the story of who you are and who you're expected to be. Each utterance casts you anew, binding you to an identity that is as fragile as it is powerful. Next time you hear your name, remember, it's not just a word, but an invocation, an ancient, ongoing ritual of selfhood. Imagine moments when coincidences feel too perfect, too precise to be mere luck. These aren't random accidents. They are subtle glitches revealing hidden patterns beneath reality's surface. Science shows that what we call coincidence often reflects deeper structures in complex systems, where unseen forces and probabilities intersect in unexpected ways. Our brains are wired to detect patterns, even where none exist, a phenomenon called apophenia. This makes us prone to seeing meaning in random alignments. But sometimes, these coincidences expose genuine connections, signs of an underlying order striving to remain concealed. Quantum physics hints at this with entanglement, where particles separated by vast distances instantaneously influence each other, defying classical logic. Similarly, chaotic systems like weather or the stock market contain hidden orders that occasionally produce rare, synchronized events. Psychologists have found that coincidences spike during moments of heightened awareness or emotional intensity, suggesting our perception is tuned to detect subtle structural glitches at critical times. These glimpses challenge our understanding of causality and randomness. They remind us reality may be woven from layers of complexity beyond our current grasp, where apparent chance is just a surface reflection of deeper connections. So next time you experience an uncanny coincidence, consider it not luck, but a fleeting peek behind the veil, an echo of hidden structures struggling to stay invisible in the chaos of existence. Imagine your memories as stories written in shifting ink, never fixed, always rewritten by the emotions you feel. Neuroscience reveals that every time you recall an event, your brain reconstructs it, influenced by current emotions and context. Joy can soften the harsh edges of painful memories, making past suffering feel distant or even sweet. Anger, on the other hand, can exaggerate details, inventing betrayals that might never have existed to protect your sense of self. Nostalgia acts like a gentle editor, forgiving mistakes and painting the past in golden hues, even if nothing actually changed. This emotional rewriting happens because memories are not static recordings, but dynamic reconstructions stored in neural networks shaped by your feelings. The amygdala, the brain's emotional hub, interacts with the hippocampus to rewrite memories every time they resurface, embedding the emotional state present in that moment. This process explains why eyewitness accounts vary, why revisiting trauma can alter its impact, and why your personal history feels so fluid and alive. Emotions aren't just reactions. They are active architects of your past, shaping your identity by coloring what you remember. Understanding this reveals that memory is less about truth and more about the emotional meaning we assign, forever rewritten by the shadows of feeling. Imagine trying to escape, to break free, but feeling an invisible force pulling you back, not of matter or planets, but of memories, people, and dreams. Just as gravity binds physical objects, emotional gravity tethers us to our past and connections. Psychology shows that our minds store emotional weight like mass. Attachments, unresolved feelings, and deeply held dreams exert pull on our decisions and sense of self. Neuroscientific research reveals how neural pathways strengthen with emotional significance, creating mental gravity wells that shape behavior. Even when you consciously try to move on, these emotional masses curve your inner space-time, bending your trajectory back toward familiar patterns and people. Memories become anchors. Dreams turn into gravitational fields that attract your attention, pulling your focus and energy. Social bonds add their own gravitational force, the magnetic pull of relationships we can't easily sever. This emotional gravity is why breaking free isn't just a matter of will. It requires understanding the invisible forces that hold you. Recognizing this can transform your struggle into acceptance, giving you the power to navigate these pulls with awareness rather than resistance. Imagine hearing words that slip through a filter you don't see. The moment sound reaches your ears, it's no longer the pure message, but a transformed echo shaped by your mind. Your brain decodes sounds using past experiences, emotions, and expectations, coloring the truth with personal bias. Studies in cognitive psychology reveal how memory and perception warp what's heard. Two people listening to the same phrase can remember wildly different versions. This distortion happens instantly as your brain tries to make sense of ambiguous sounds and fill in gaps with assumptions. For example, when gossip spreads, facts bend to fit listeners' beliefs, creating divergent truths that feel authentic but may stray far from reality. This phenomenon, known as the illusory truth effect, shows how repeated exposure to warped versions can cement false memories and beliefs. Listening isn't passive reception, it's active interpretation, rewriting the message before it even settles. Your personal lens warps what you hear, sealing it in your bias, and once internalized, it shapes your perception of the world and others. This reveals a profound truth. Communication is never neutral, and truth is fluid, shifting with every ear it passes through. What you hear is uniquely yours, a version rewritten in real time by your mind's unseen hand. Imagine holding a tiny grain of sand and believing it to be solid, unchanging, real. But zoom in, far beyond what your eyes can see, and you enter a realm where solidity dissolves into mystery, a realm where the very fabric of matter unravels into clouds of possibility, not certainty. At the smallest scales, the universe is no longer a place of fixed objects, but a dance of probabilities, a blur of quantum waves that refuse to settle into simple answers. Science tells us that atoms, the building blocks of everything, are mostly empty space. Their electrons do not orbit like planets, but exist as probability clouds, regions where these particles are likely to be found. You can never pinpoint an electron's exact location. You can only calculate the chance of its presence somewhere around the nucleus. This fundamental uncertainty means that matter is never truly solid, but a shimmering field of potential. Take the famous double-slit experiment, where particles like electrons behave as both particles and waves, collapsing into one form only when observed. This reveals that what we perceive as solid reality depends on observation itself, making the smallest things fundamentally infinite in their possibilities. Even what we call empty space teems with quantum fluctuations, tiny bursts of energy that pop in and out of existence, hinting at a universe more fluid and dynamic than our senses suggest. The solidity we trust is just a veil, a human construct to make sense of an unfathomably complex quantum world. So next time you touch something solid, remember, beneath that surface lies infinity, an endless dance of probabilities pretending to be certainty, reminding us that reality is stranger and more mysterious than it appears. Imagine a single scent suddenly pulling you from the present, transporting you back through time with vivid clarity. This isn't just nostalgia, it's science. Our sense of smell is uniquely wired to access memories deeply embedded in the brain's limbic system, the area responsible for emotion and long-term memory. Unlike other senses, smell bypasses the usual cognitive filters and triggers instant, intense recollections. When you catch a whiff of fresh rain, old books, or a loved one's perfume, your brain activates the hippocampus and amygdala, flooding your body with the feelings tied to that moment. Scientists call this the Proust effect, named after Marcel Proust's description of involuntary memories sparked by sensory cues. These olfactory time machines can evoke emotions so powerful that your heart rate, breathing, and even body temperature shift, as if you're reliving the past physically. This is why smells often bring back childhood memories or moments long forgotten, more vividly than words or images ever could. Research reveals that scent-linked memories tend to be older and more emotionally charged than memories triggered by other senses, showing the extraordinary role smell plays in anchoring our identity and history. So the next time a smell sweeps you away, remember, it's your brain's time machine at work, bending the boundaries of now and then, making the past feel undeniably real in your present moment. Imagine your mind as a car cruising on autopilot, while your conscious awareness sits in the passenger seat, narrating the journey but rarely steering the wheel. Science shows that nearly every decision you make happens beneath conscious thought. In milliseconds, your brain processes information, weighs options, and commits to choices without you even realizing it. The conscious mind often becomes aware only after the fact, crafting stories to explain actions already set in motion. Neuroscientific studies using brain imaging reveal that neural activity predicting your decisions can be detected seconds before you consciously choose. This unconscious processing governs habits, biases, and even complex problem solving, freeing your mind from overwhelming detail but also limiting true volition. Your awareness acts like a storyteller, giving coherence to decisions it did not originate, creating the illusion of control. This explains why habits are so hard to break and why split-second reactions feel automatic. You are less the driver and more the witness of your own life's unfolding narrative. Understanding this reshapes how we view free will and responsibility. It's a dance between unconscious processes and the conscious observer, where most moves are choreographed out of sight. Imagine the vastness of space, but what if space itself isn't real? Your brain doesn't perceive space directly. It calculates distance from patterns of signals. Vision, hearing, touch, all provide data points your mind interprets to build a three-dimensional model inside your skull. Neuroscience shows that what you experience as far or near is a construction, a mental map created from light angles, sound delays, and tactile feedback. For example, your eye's slight differences in view, called binocular disparity, let your brain estimate depth. But this is not measuring space itself. It's interpreting differences in sensory input. Quantum physics suggests that at fundamental levels, space may not be a continuous fabric, but an emergent phenomenon from information processing. Your brain's space is a user interface, a simplified model for survival, not an absolute reality. Distances are relative. Nothing is truly far. Only signals are positioned differently and interpreted by your neural circuits. So what you call space is a mental illusion, a dynamic simulation your brain creates to navigate the world. Understanding this unravels the boundary between perception and reality. Imagine your mind haunted not only by what happened, but by all the paths you never took, the versions of yourself that never lived. Neuroscience shows that regret isn't just about loss, it's about mourning alternate realities your brain simulates. When you think, what if, your mind creates vivid, emotional scenarios where different choices led to other lives. This mental simulation activates the same brain regions as real experiences, causing genuine grief for possibilities that were never real. For example, you might replay a missed opportunity or a harsh word, feeling sorrow not just for the event, but for the imagined selves who succeeded or acted differently. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, and it shapes identity by highlighting what you value and fear. Yet dwelling on these ghosts can trap you in cycles of rumination, blurring the line between reality and imagination. You aren't haunted by ghosts of the past, but by shadows of potential selves, endlessly replayed in your thoughts. This reveals a profound truth. Your identity is not fixed, but a spectrum of possibilities, some lived, many only imagined. Grieving these unrealized versions deepens human complexity, reminding us that loss is more than what was, it's also what might have been. Imagine standing at a crossroads, feeling the weight of choice pressing on you, and knowing that the path you didn't take didn't simply vanish. Instead, it quietly splits away, growing into a hidden branch of reality, an invisible world where your footsteps echo along roads you never traveled. These paths, unseen yet real, stretch endlessly, woven into the fabric of existence alongside the life you live now. Science and philosophy explore this concept in theories like the multiverse and quantum mechanics. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every decision you make creates alternate realities where each possible outcome unfolds. So, for every choice you reject, there's a parallel universe where you embraced it, living the life you imagined, feeling the consequences you never faced. Think of your mind as a traveler, not just moving through one path, but simultaneously stepping into countless unseen trails. Each road carries fragments of your hopes, fears, and regrets, growing roots in these shadow realms. Though invisible to your waking eyes, their existence influences your present, like echoes rippling beneath the surface of your consciousness. This means that your current reality is but one thread in an infinite tapestry of what ifs. The roads you never took still exist, alive with potential, memory, and possibility, reminding you that every choice shapes not just your world, but countless others silently branching away, forever entwined with who you are. Next time you wonder about a missed chance, remember, those paths haven't disappeared. They live on in hidden echoes, waiting silently in the vast labyrinth of reality. Imagine carrying a secret, not just as hidden information, but as a silent architect reshaping your very self. Keeping a secret doesn't simply hide a fact, it creates a hidden layer of personality, a quiet room within your mind where vulnerability, fear, and power intertwine unseen by others. Psychological research shows that secrets alter brain activity, engaging regions tied to emotional regulation, stress, and identity formation. When you harbor a secret, your brain constantly monitors what can be revealed and what must remain locked away, a mental balancing act that subtly shifts your behavior and self-perception. This hidden compartment influences how you interact socially, sometimes fostering isolation, anxiety, or heightened self-awareness. Studies reveal that even small secrets can impose cognitive loads, mental energy spent maintaining concealment, affecting memory, focus, and emotional stability. Over time, this secret chamber becomes part of your internal landscape, shaping how you see yourself and how you navigate relationships. Moreover, the secret's emotional weight can deepen personal identity, creating complexity and depth that others cannot perceive. This quiet room of the self is private yet profoundly influential, molding choices, fears, and desires beneath the surface. So, keeping a secret is never just about hiding. It's about building an unseen part of who you are, a shadowed space where your inner world silently expands and transforms beyond external view. Imagine holding a photograph in your hands, a still image that seems to freeze time, capturing a perfect moment forever. But science tells us this is an illusion. A photograph doesn't truly capture reality, it fossilizes it, turning a fluid, living experience into a static snapshot that replaces your memory of what really happened. Memories are not fixed recordings, but dynamic, reconstructive processes that change each time they are accessed. When you look at a photo, your brain often uses it as a reference, rewriting your memory to fit the frozen image. This can distort your sense of the past, because the photograph emphasizes some details and omits others, shaping what you remember. Psychologists call this the photo paradox. By preserving a moment, photos actually reshape it, sometimes even erasing alternative versions of what you experienced. For example, recalling a childhood birthday party while looking at a photo may make you forget the moments that weren't captured, the laughter, the smells, the sounds, that your brain once stored vividly but now become overshadowed by the image's fixed frame. Neuroscience shows that memory consolidation is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. Every retrieval of a memory is a chance for it to be modified, for emotions to be reinterpreted, for details to fade or intensify. A photograph imposes a visual anchor that can alter this process, fossilizing a version of the event that replaces the fuller, living experience in your mind. This is why eyewitness testimonies can conflict, why nostalgia feels selective, and why personal history can feel unreliable. Photographs steal reality by trapping it in a frame, freezing a moment that should be fluid and replacing the vividness of memory with a static, often incomplete, version of the past. Understanding this challenges our trust in photographs as truthful records and reveals the fragile, evolving nature of human memory and perception. Imagine feeling pain, not just once but over and over, long after the original hurt has passed. This isn't simply unresolved trauma. Your brain can actually program emotional pain like a habit, firing the same distress signals on autopilot. Neuroscience reveals that repeated thoughts and feelings create neural pathways, strengthening the circuits that generate pain responses. The more your brain practices these patterns, the more automatic they become, like muscle memory, but for suffering. Studies on neuroplasticity show that the brain rewires itself based on repeated experiences. Chronic emotional pain is often less about current events and more about the brain's learned reactions. For example, someone who constantly ruminates on rejection trains their brain to activate pain centers even when no threat exists. This is why breaking free feels so difficult. The pain has been encoded deeply, almost like a default program. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy work by helping rewire these circuits, replacing autopilot pain with new, healthier patterns. Understanding that emotional pain is a learned, programmed response offers hope, because if the brain can program pain, it can also be taught to unlearn it. This insight transforms suffering from a fixed fate into a changeable code within your mind. Imagine yourself not as a single, seamless being, but as a mosaic, an intricate collage pieced together over time. Neuroscience and psychology reveal that identity is not a fixed whole, but a complex assembly of past experiences, memories, traumas, praises, roles, and masks worn so often they seem fused to your very skin. Your brain stores countless emotional imprints from childhood praise to moments of deep hurt, each shaping the fragments of who you think you are. For example, the confident mask you wear at work may hide a wounded part shaped by past criticism, while your hopeful side reflects dreams nurtured by encouragement. These pieces coexist, sometimes conflicting, yet together they form your sense of self. Studies on dissociation and personality disorders highlight how trauma can fracture identity into distinct parts, each holding different memories or emotions. Even without trauma, daily life demands we adopt various roles, friend, partner, worker, that layer over each other. This collage is dynamic. Masks once worn to survive can become habitual, blurring where you end and performance begins. Understanding this helps unravel the illusion of a single, consistent you. Instead, identity is a living puzzle, always assembling and reassembling, a reflection of your past and present intertwined. This insight deepens empathy for yourself and others, revealing that beneath every facade is a multifaceted being shaped by countless threads woven through time. Imagine stepping through a door and instantly becoming someone new, though your face remains the same. The moment you cross that threshold, an invisible shift takes place inside your mind. Every door you pass through, be it your home, workplace, or a hospital, does more than mark a change in location. It triggers a new mental script, rewriting how you see yourself and how you behave. These environments don't just reflect who you are, they assign your identity in real time. Psychologists call this phenomenon context-dependent behavior. Our brains are wired to adapt rapidly to new surroundings by activating roles, memories, and expectations tied to that place. For example, the confident professional you embody at work is not always the same person who relaxes at home or the vulnerable patient in a hospital room. Each environment cues a different set of behaviors, social rules, and emotional responses, almost like flipping a switch in your neural circuitry. This effect is evident in studies showing how people change posture, tone, and even decision-making based on where they are. Doors act as invisible boundaries that partition our identities into segments. When you cross from one to another, your brain sheds one persona and dons another, seamlessly and unconsciously. Think about how walking into a courtroom transforms nervous witnesses into cautious speakers, or how entering your childhood home stirs memories and emotions dormant elsewhere. These thresholds mold you, silently scripting your actions and sense of self. So, remember, doors don't just lead to new places, they lead to new versions of you, endlessly shaped by the spaces you inhabit and the roles they demand. Imagine the world around you isn't fixed, but subtly shifting, responding to your emotional state like water rippling in response to your touch. This isn't mere metaphor. It's supported by neuroscience and psychology. Our perception of reality is deeply influenced by our emotions, which shape how we interpret sensory input, social cues, and even physical environments. Studies show that when you're anxious, the brain's threat detection systems heighten, making neutral faces appear hostile, sounds sharper, and situations more dangerous. Conversely, positive emotions can broaden attention, enhance creativity, and make the world seem more inviting and vibrant. The brain constantly predicts and filters information based on internal states, a process called predictive coding. Your mood acts as a lens, coloring every moment and interaction. This emotional feedback loop creates a dynamic dance where your feelings shape the reality you perceive, and that perceived reality, in turn, influences your feelings. Social psychology reveals that others also mirror your energy unconsciously, responding to your emotional signals with matching expressions and behaviors. This ripple effect in social environments reinforces how your internal state alters external experience. So, the reality you live in is less a static stage and more a fluid mirror, reflecting your emotional energy in subtle ways. Your inner world and outer world entwine, each shaping the other like waves, responding to the slightest touch. Yet, imagine holding a map, lines, symbols, and borders etched on paper, simple shapes that guide your understanding of vast, complex realities. But maps do more than guide. They shape your beliefs. Cognitive science shows that once your brain accepts a map's boundaries and paths, it creates a mental framework that becomes a law unto itself. This mental map organizes information and reduces uncertainty, but it also narrows perception. Once mapped, your mind forgets the fluidity of the world beyond the lines. Geography, politics, and even abstract concepts like identity become fixed by these invisible mental laws. Studies reveal that people cling to mental maps so tightly they resist contradicting evidence, mistaking the map for reality itself. This explains why borders provoke strong emotional attachments, even when drawn arbitrarily, and why changing a long-held belief feels like erasing a part of your mental landscape. Your brain prefers stable maps over messy truths because it craves predictability. Understanding this shows that belief is not just about facts, but the powerful influence of mental maps that shape how you perceive and engage with the world. The lines on paper become laws in your brain, making you forget that everything could be drawn differently. Imagine a shadow, not just a void, but a lingering memory of light. Darkness isn't mere absence, it's a silent record of the illumination that once created it. Physics teaches us that shadows form, be it because light is blocked or absorbed, but the edges, the shapes, the gradients, these are traces, echoes of light's journey. Photons, the particles of light, carry information about the objects they interact with, imprinting histories on surfaces and spaces. Even in darkness, residual photons can scatter subtly, telling a story of past brightness. Neuroscience reveals how your brain interprets shadows not as emptiness, but as depth and form, reconstructing spatial memory from the absence of light. Shadows become carriers of history, holding the imprint of light's presence, duration, and angle. Like memories etched into the fabric of space, they remind us that absence is never total. In every dark corner, a story of illumination lingers, a record of what was, not just what isn't. So shadows aren't just darkness, they are the memory of light, quietly preserving its passage through time and space. Imagine feeling fear that isn't truly yours, but a legacy passed down through generations, encoded not in stories, but deep within your biology. Science reveals that trauma and fear experienced by your ancestors can leave marks on your DNA through a process called epigenetic inheritance. These biological signals alter how certain genes express themselves, tuning your stress responses to dangers long before your birth. For instance, studies on descendants of survivors from extreme trauma, like famine or war, show heightened anxiety and sensitivity to stress, even without direct exposure. This means your fear of heights, spiders, or the dark may echo ancient threats your lineage faced, embedded as cellular memories. These inherited signals prepare your body to react swiftly to danger, but can also trap you in heightened states of alertness for threats that no longer exist. This deep biological connection blurs the line between past and present, reminding us that survival is written in the cells, shaping your emotions and behaviors in ways you barely understand. You carry more than your own experiences. You bear the fears and resilience of countless ancestors pulsing silently inside you. This knowledge reshapes how we view fear, not as a flaw, but as an ancient survival code woven into the very fabric of your being. Imagine trying to grasp a feeling, an idea, or a truth that hovers just beyond your reach, a shadow in your mind with no words to name it. This isn't just frustration, it's the fundamental way language shapes thought. You can't think what you can't say. Your words form the borders of your mind, carving out the spaces where ideas live. Without vocabulary, certain truths remain locked away, hidden behind a barrier built by silence. Linguists and cognitive scientists have long studied this link. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, for example, suggests that the language you speak influences how you perceive and categorize reality. If your language lacks words for certain colors, emotions, or concepts, your brain struggles to fully recognize or express them. This isn't mere theory. Studies show that speakers of different languages literally see and experience the world differently because of the words available to them. Consider emotions like Schadenfreude in German or Saudade in Portuguese, words that capture complex feelings without direct equivalents in other languages. Without those words, speakers of other tongues might feel those emotions but lack the linguistic tools to think about them clearly or communicate them fully. Even abstract ideas like freedom, justice, or time are framed by the language's grammar and vocabulary. This means some truths are tethered to language's reach. New words expand your mind's horizon. Without them, entire concepts remain invisible. So next time you struggle to explain a thought or emotion, remember, your language is both a key and a cage. It unlocks some parts of your mind while silently fencing off others, shaping not just what you say, but what you can truly think. Imagine your earliest beliefs about love, safety, and failure as deeply etched scripts running silently in the background of your mind. Even after years of growth and change, these childhood programs continue to influence your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Neuroscience shows that early experiences shape neural pathways that become the foundation of your emotional and behavioral patterns. These early scripts are formed during critical developmental windows when the brain is especially plastic. They embed expectations about the world and yourself, often without conscious awareness. Psychologists explain that even when you consciously challenge or rewrite these beliefs, the original neural patterns persist beneath the surface, guiding reactions and choices. For example, a childhood belief that love is conditional may cause you to seek constant approval, long after you intellectually understand unconditional care. Similarly, early safety concerns can trigger anxiety in adulthood, even if current environments are secure. Therapeutic methods like EMDR and neuroplasticity-based practices work by accessing and reshaping these deep-rooted scripts, but the process requires patience because these patterns are wired into the core of your identity. So, your childhood scripts never truly die. They continue to run silently, influencing who you are. Understanding their persistence is the first step to reclaiming control and rewriting your story with awareness and compassion. Imagine your mind as a theater that never truly closes, where what you watch during the day doesn't just vanish at night, it rewrites the script of your dreams. Neuroscience shows that the media you consume influences the content of your subconscious, seeping into your sleep and editing your inner narratives while you rest. Studies reveal that exposure to certain images, sounds, and stories before sleep alters REM patterns, the brain phase where most vivid dreaming occurs. This means the movies, shows, and videos you absorb shape your dream themes, emotions, and memories. For example, watching suspenseful thrillers can increase nightmare frequency, while calming scenes may promote peaceful dreams. This process happens because the brain processes daytime stimuli by weaving them into the complex tapestry of dreams blending reality with imagination. Over time, repetitive media exposure can reprogram your subconscious beliefs and fears, influencing not only dreams, but waking thoughts and emotional responses. This reveals how media is not a passive influence, but an active editor of your mental life, shaping who you are even in your deepest sleep. Understanding this power invites awareness of what you feed your mind and how it quietly programs your dreaming self. Imagine laughter, not as pure joy or release, but as a subtle, controlled response. Sometimes laughter isn't freedom, it's pressure relief, a survival mechanism disguised in sound. Neuroscience shows that laughter activates the brain's reward centers, releasing endorphins that ease tension. But in moments of discomfort, fear, or power struggles, laughter can serve as a mask, a way to deflect stress or assert control. Psychologists call this nervous laughter, where the brain uses humor to reduce anxiety and signal social compliance or dominance. For example, people laugh during awkward silences or tense confrontations, not because they're amused, but because laughter diffuses threat and recalibrates emotions. In power dynamics, controlled laughter can assert confidence or undermine opponents without aggression. Even in fear, laughter may protect mental stability by shifting focus from danger to a manageable social cue. So laughter isn't always genuine release. It's often a carefully programmed response, an emotional thermostat helping you survive complex social landscapes by controlling how you're perceived and how you feel. Imagine vanishing every night into a realm where time twists, bodies dissolve, and logic unravels. A place so strange, yet we never question where you really go. Science reveals sleep isn't just rest, but a mysterious portal to altered states of consciousness where your brain rewires, memories reshape, and time perception warps. During REM sleep, your mind crafts vivid dreams, collapsing hours into moments or stretching seconds into lifetimes. Neurologists show that in this state, parts of your brain deactivate while others ignite, dissolving normal rules of reality. You become untethered from your body, slipping into a fluid world of symbols, emotions, and fragments of self. This nightly disappearance challenges the idea of a continuous self. If you fade each night, what truly persists? Studies of lucid dreaming and sleep paralysis hint at glimpses of this hidden realm, where identity blurs and the boundaries of existence stretch. Yet, society accepts this vanishing act without question, ignoring the profound mystery it holds. Sleep is more than rest. It's a journey into a shadow dimension where your essence dissolves and reforms, reminding us that our waking life is only one layer of a deeper, stranger reality. Imagine walking into a spotless room, the gleaming surfaces, the absence of clutter, the subtle scent of disinfectant, and feeling an almost automatic sense of safety wash over you. Cleanliness isn't merely about appearance. It's a powerful signal to your brain that the environment poses no threat. Even when the dangers are unseen or unknown, a sanitized space convinces your mind to relax, trust, and stay calm. From an evolutionary perspective, humans have developed strong associations between cleanliness and safety. In ancestral environments, dirt and decay often meant the presence of disease, parasites, or predators. Our brains evolved to respond to cues of hygiene with relief, activating neural pathways linked to comfort and security. This response is so deeply ingrained that even modern societies, where germs are invisible and threats less immediate, still rely on cleanliness as a psychological anchor. Scientific studies support this link. Experiments show that people exposed to clean, organized environments report lower stress levels and are more likely to engage socially and cooperate. Conversely, messy or dirty surroundings can trigger heightened alertness and unease, even if no actual danger exists. This trust in cleanliness extends beyond sight and smell. Hospitals, for example, use rigorous sterilization not only to reduce infection, but also to reassure patients and staff. The sanitized environment becomes a silent promise. Here, safety prevails. So next time you find comfort in a clean space, remember, your brain is reading subtle signals, interpreting cleanliness as a shield against danger. It's a primal trust, hardwired and automatic, that guides you through the invisible threats of the world. Imagine holding a simple tool, a hammer, and realizing it does more than just shape objects. Using any tool, from a hammer to a smartphone or pencil, reshapes how you think. Neuroscience reveals that tools extend the brain's capabilities, rewiring cognition in subtle, lasting ways. When you use a tool, your brain integrates it into your body schema, effectively making the tool an extension of yourself. Studies show that tool use enhances neural connections in areas responsible for spatial awareness, problem solving, and motor control. For example, musicians' brains change with practice, and even casual smartphone users develop altered attention and memory patterns due to constant connectivity. Psychologists call this phenomenon cognitive offloading, delegating mental tasks to tools, freeing your mind, but also reshaping neural pathways. Over time, these changes become permanent, influencing how you approach problems, remember information, and interact with the world. Anthropologists argue that tool use drove human evolution, enabling abstract thinking and cultural complexity. Every tool you use subtly rewires your brain, creating a feedback loop where thought and technology evolve together. So, the tools you wield don't just build or connect, they transform your very mind, reshaping how you perceive, think, and create in profound ways. Yes. Imagine living inside a world shaped less by your true self and more by the silent expectations others hold of you. These unspoken mental scripts create invisible boundaries, subtly curving your behavior to fit roles and images projected onto you. Social psychology reveals that human behavior is deeply influenced by these expectations through mechanisms like the self-fulfilling prophecy and social conformity. When others anticipate certain actions, your brain unconsciously adapts, aligning thoughts and decisions to meet those predicted outcomes. Studies show that people often modify speech, body language, and choices to conform, even without explicit instructions. This dynamic maintains social harmony but can trap individuality. The looking glass self theory explains how our self-identity is shaped by how we believe others perceive us. Over time, these internalized expectations become scripts that govern behavior, often overriding authentic desires. Neurologically, the brain's predictive coding system constantly models others' expectations, guiding your responses to reduce social friction. This means your behavior is not entirely free, but choreographed by invisible social contracts. So, expectations are powerful architects of your reality, framing your actions and limiting freedom, even when no words are spoken. Understanding this trap is the first step to reclaiming authentic expression beyond others' silent scripts. Imagine opening a book and stepping into a place where time no longer flows as usual. When you read, you don't just pass through time, you bend it, compressing moments, expanding emotions, skipping minutes, or even reversing seconds. Neuroscience reveals that reading engages your brain's attentional networks, warping your perception of duration. This is called time dilation in psychology, where engrossment alters how you experience the passage of time. For example, moments of intense focus can make hours feel like minutes, while boredom stretches seconds endlessly. Your brain's internal clock syncs with the narrative rhythm, pausing at suspense, racing during action, or lingering on poetic lines. Studies show that when you lose yourself in a story, your brain suppresses awareness of the external world, creating a subjective time bubble shaped by your attention. Reading allows you to explore multiple timelines, flashbacks, foreshadowing, and alternate realities, folding chronological order into a pliable form. So reading isn't just consuming words, it's a mental time machine, a cognitive dance that rewires your sense of now and then. Imagine your brain as a master predictor, constantly guessing what will happen next, even before the world reveals it. This isn't guesswork, it's a vital survival strategy. Neuroscience shows that your brain builds models of reality, using past experiences to forecast incoming sensory input. This predictive coding means perception is not passive reception, but active construction. Sometimes your brain sees what it expects so strongly that it fills in gaps, creating experiences ahead of actual input. For example, in a dark room, you might glimpse a shadow that isn't there because your mind predicts danger. Studies with brain imaging reveal that prediction signals arrive before sensory data, guiding perception and decision-making. This system speeds reaction time, letting you navigate a chaotic world efficiently. Yet it also opens the door to illusions, false memories, and biases as your expectations distort reality. This interplay between prediction and input shapes your conscious experience, blurring the line between what is and what might be. Your reality is a blend of truth and expectation, your brain's best guess woven into every moment. Understanding this reveals how control isn't just external, but rooted in your mind's ceaseless dance of anticipation and interpretation, shaping your reality before it even arrives. Imagine waking up every day and performing the same small actions, pouring your coffee just so, tying your shoes in a particular way, or reciting a phrase before a big meeting. These simple routines might seem trivial, but they hold extraordinary power. Rituals are not just habits. They are psychological tools that transform chaos into order and random events into meaningful experiences. Science reveals that rituals engage our brains in ways that reduce anxiety and increase focus. Neuroscientific studies show that performing rituals activates the basal ganglia and prefrontal cortex, regions linked to habit formation and decision-making. This activation creates a sense of control, even when the outcome is uncertain. For example, athletes who follow precise pre-game routines often perform better, not because the ritual changes physical skill, but because it rewires their mindset, reducing stress and boosting confidence. Anthropologists point out that rituals are universal across cultures, serving as a social glue that constructs shared meaning. By repeating symbolic acts, communities make sense of the unpredictable, creating a collective narrative that feels ordered and purposeful. The tossing of coins, lighting of candles, or even a handshake, all transform chance encounters into moments charged with significance. Psychologically, rituals give structure to life's uncertainties, making fate feel real and the uncontrollable seem manageable. They help us rewrite our internal reality, shaping emotions and perceptions to align with desired outcomes. In this way, rituals are a profound trick of the mind, a way to impose meaning where there might be none. So next time you find comfort in a routine or ritual, remember, you're not just following a pattern, you're reshaping reality itself, turning randomness into order and chaos into purpose. Imagine living inside a world shaped less by your true self and more by the silent expectations others hold of you. These unspoken mental scripts create invisible boundaries, subtly curving your behavior to fit roles and images projected onto you. Social psychology reveals that human behavior is deeply influenced by these expectations through mechanisms like the self-fulfilling prophecy and social conformity. When others anticipate certain actions, your brain unconsciously adapts, aligning thoughts and decisions to meet those predicted outcomes. Studies show that people often modify speech, body language, and choices to conform, even without explicit instructions. This dynamic maintains social harmony but can trap individuality. The looking glass self theory explains how our self-identity is shaped by how we believe others perceive us. Over time, these internalized expectations become scripts that govern behavior, often overriding authentic desires. Neurologically, the brain's predictive coding system constantly models others' expectations, guiding your responses to reduce social friction. This means your behavior is not entirely free, but choreographed by invisible social contracts. So, expectations are powerful architects of your reality, framing your actions and limiting freedom, even when no words are spoken. Understanding this trap is the first step to reclaiming authentic expression beyond others' silent scripts. Imagine trying to see your true face, but the only images you have are reflections in mirrors, photos, and filtered impressions. Neuroscience reveals you have never actually seen your real face. What you perceive is always mediated through surfaces and devices that distort and invert reality. Mirrors show a reversed version. Photos flatten three-dimensional features, and filters alter colors and shapes, creating illusions of beauty or identity. Your brain stitches these fragments into a mental image, a collective fiction shaped by social feedback, memory, and culture. Psychology shows this mental image is fluid, often conflicting with how others see you, and influenced by emotions and self-esteem. This means your sense of your own face is less a fixed reality and more a constantly rewritten idea, an internal narrative constructed from partial and altered glimpses. Understanding this challenges the notion of a fixed self and reveals how identity is a shared creation, woven between your mind, others' perceptions, and the countless mediated images you absorb. Your face, in truth, is less a thing and more a story told by light, reflection, and imagination. Imagine white noise, not as meaningless static, but as structured chaos. What seems random is actually a complex pattern of frequencies layered together, creating a hidden order beneath the surface. Acoustic physics shows that white noise contains every audible frequency at equal intensity, a blend that your brain struggles to decode into distinct signals. Yet, despite this indecipherability, your body instinctively responds to its rhythms. Neuroscience reveals that white noise can influence brain waves, promoting relaxation or focus by masking distracting sounds. It taps into our neural circuits in subtle ways, calming the mind through predictable unpredictability. Even natural sounds like rain or ocean waves follow similar complex patterns. Organized chaos that soothes because it's familiar yet non-specific. This hidden order in noise mirrors many natural systems, complex yet governed by underlying rules humans don't fully perceive. So, white noise isn't random emptiness. It's a symphony of hidden patterns, a coded rhythm that resonates beneath conscious awareness, quietly shaping your mental state. Imagine intelligence as a double-edged sword, powerful for solving puzzles, but sometimes blinding you to the subtle truths beneath. Neuroscience and psychology reveal that highly analytical minds can get trapped in logic, missing the emotional and intuitive layers of reality. While intelligence excels at breaking down problems, it often undervalues feelings, nuances, and the unspoken signals that shape human experience. For example, a brilliant person might analyze a friend's words without sensing the pain behind them, or decode a situation without feeling its emotional weight. Studies show that emotional insight activates different brain areas than cognitive reasoning, and balancing both is key to deep understanding. Yet, when intellect dominates, it creates a filter that screens out ambiguity and paradox, essential elements of life's complexity. This intellectual focus can foster a disconnect from oneself and others, hindering empathy and awareness. Paradoxically, true insight requires surrendering some control, embracing uncertainty, and tuning into feelings rather than just facts. This tension explains why smart people sometimes overlook what's most real, the textures of emotion and presence that logic cannot fully grasp. Understanding this gap invites us to harmonize thinking with feeling, revealing that intelligence alone is not enough. Insight blooms where reason bows to intuition, reminding us that reality's deepest layers are felt, not solved. Imagine taking a bite of your favorite dish and instantly being flooded with memories. Perhaps a childhood kitchen, a family gathering, or a distant place you once visited. Taste isn't just about detecting molecules on your tongue. It's an emotional experience wired deep into your brain's memory centers. Flavor is a bridge between the physical and the emotional, where chemistry meets nostalgia. Scientifically, taste perception begins when molecules from food bind to receptors on your tongue, signaling your brain about sweetness, bitterness, sourness, saltiness, and umami. But this is only half the story. The brain's limbic system, the center for emotions and memories, is closely linked to the olfactory and gustatory systems. This connection explains why a single flavor can evoke powerful feelings and vivid recollections. For example, the smell and taste of freshly baked bread might trigger comfort and warmth, recalling moments of safety. Conversely, bitter flavors can evoke caution or disgust, evolutionary signals. Warning of potential toxins. This emotional mapping is unique to each individual, shaped by personal history, culture, and experience. Moreover, this link influences appetite, mood, and even social bonding. Shared meals become emotional rituals, reinforcing relationships through flavor. Chewing the same food can unlock a hidden diary of feelings and stories stored in your brain, far beyond the chemical signals on your tongue. So next time you savor a taste, remember, it's more than flavor. It's emotion, memory, and identity intertwined, a sensory story told by your tongue and your heart. Imagine reality not just as what exists, but as much defined by what doesn't, the holes, gaps, and absences that shape everything around us. This is no poetic idea. Science shows that absence is as powerful as presence. In physics, a hole in a material can alter its strength, conductivity, and function dramatically. The famous hole theory in semiconductors explains how missing electrons, essentially holes, carry electrical current just like particles. In acoustics, silence, the pause between notes, is what gives music its rhythm and emotion. Without these intentional gaps, sound becomes noise. Psychologists have found that our brains interpret pauses as meaningful, creating tension, release, and expectation in melodies and speech. Even in biology, a missing breath or a pause in movement affects the body and mind profoundly, regulating stress and focus. The concept of negative space in art and design proves that what is left empty guides the viewer's attention and perception more than what is filled. Cosmology reveals that vast empty spaces between galaxies, cosmic voids, shape the universe's structure and evolution, influencing gravity and matter distribution. These absences form a scaffold upon which existence hangs. So, holes and gaps are not mere voids. They are active forces molding reality. They create balance, meaning, and function, reminding us that absence is not nothing. It's an essential presence shaping the fabric of all things. Imagine a simple shape or sign, a symbol, etched on paper or glowing on a screen. But this is no ordinary mark. Neuroscience reveals that symbols do more than represent ideas. They actively trigger emotions, memories, and beliefs deep in your brain, rearranging how you perceive reality itself. When you see a symbol, your brain's limbic system lights up, evoking feelings before conscious thought even begins. A red cross doesn't just mean hospital, it evokes safety, healing, and urgency. A national flag isn't just fabric, it summons identity, loyalty, and history. Studies show symbols tap into stored memories, connecting your present moment with collective experiences and personal stories, shaping your worldview more powerfully than facts alone. This explains why symbols can unite or divide, inspire movements, or embed cultural myths that feel undeniably real. The brain treats symbols as shortcuts to complex meaning, transforming abstract marks into emotional realities. Recognizing this power shifts how we understand communication, propaganda, and belief systems. Symbols don't just reflect reality, they create it, bending perception and molding thought with a force stronger than truth itself. Imagine every object you touch as more than just an object, as a silent witness, storing fragments of your emotions. Your mug, your pillow, even a door handle carries traces of your moods, quietly recording the invisible energy you emit. Science shows that human interaction leaves biochemical and physical imprints on objects. When you touch something, your skin transfers oils, sweat, and microscopic particles infused with stress hormones like cortisol or calming chemicals like serotonin. Studies in psychophysiology reveal how emotional states alter these secretions, effectively encoding feelings onto surfaces. Beyond chemicals, the subtle pressure, warmth, and even micro vibrations from touch change the physical texture and electromagnetic fields around objects. Researchers in environmental psychology find that people often perceive objects as charged with emotion, influencing mood and memory when they interact with them later. This phenomenon explains why holding a cherished item can evoke calm, or why a space can feel tense or welcoming. Your environment becomes a dynamic emotional archive, each object a page in the story of your inner world. Recognizing this connection shifts how you see everyday things, from passive tools to living repositories of your emotional history. Imagine your bed as more than just a place to rest, as a silent witness to your most intense emotions, a stage where your inner life unfolds. Neuroscience and psychology reveal that physical spaces, like your bed, become deeply intertwined with your emotional memories, anchoring feelings of joy, fear, sorrow, and hope. Each night, as you lay down, your brain links this familiar environment with the emotional states experienced there, from peaceful dreams to moments of breakdown. For example, studies show that our brains associate specific places with memories, triggering emotions when we return. Your bed holds traces of late-night worries, whispered secrets, laughter shared, and tears shed, acting as a personal emotional theater. This connection explains why returning to your bed can evoke comfort or anxiety depending on past experiences. Sleep researchers find that the quality of rest depends not only on physical comfort, but on these emotional associations, influencing how well you heal and process emotions. Recognizing your bed as an emotional anchor highlights how deeply environment shapes psyche, reminding us that places carry the echoes of our inner world. This insight deepens the understanding of human experience, where furniture transforms into a vessel of memory, identity, and feeling, silently holding the story of who you are. Imagine reaching out to catch a falling glass and realizing you didn't consciously decide to move. Your body just knew what to do. Movement isn't always the product of deliberate thought. It's often memory in motion, a deeply ingrained script playing out seamlessly without conscious direction. Your muscles and nerves carry centuries of learned patterns, allowing you to act before your mind even registers the moment. Neuroscience shows that many movements originate in subconscious brain regions like the basal ganglia and cerebellum, which store motor memories and coordinate action. These areas prepare and execute movements milliseconds before the conscious brain, housed in the cortex, becomes aware. Experiments with split-second reaction times reveal that the brain sends signals to muscles well before we feel the intention to move. This explains why experienced athletes, dancers, or musicians perform complex sequences fluidly. They rely on muscle memory, encoded through repetition, enabling split-second responses that conscious thought would slow down. Thought often follows action, providing feedback or adjustment rather than initiation. Even everyday tasks like walking or typing depend on this memory-based control. The brain constantly updates movement patterns through sensory input and prior experience, optimizing efficiency. Conscious thought can intervene, but most motions run on autopilot, shaped by a vast archive of past learning. So next time you move instinctively, remember your body is recalling a stored script, acting before your mind catches up. Movement is memory made manifest, a dance of neural pathways written long ago, performed without a conscious cue. Imagine standing by a flowing river, listening to rain tapping softly, or gazing at the vast ocean, and feeling your mind shift in ways you can't fully explain. This is not just relaxation. Science reveals that being near water profoundly alters brain activity. Studies using EEG technology show that natural water sounds and visuals change brain waves, increasing alpha and theta waves associated with calmness, creativity, and deep focus. Neuroscientists explain that these shifts reduce stress hormones like cortisol, while boosting neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, chemically reshaping your attention and emotional state. This phenomenon, often called blue mind, describes how water environments foster meditative awareness and emotional balance. Research finds that exposure to water can enhance mood, lower anxiety, and improve cognitive performance, making you more present and attentive. Even brief encounters with water sounds or images trigger these positive brain changes, activating parasympathetic nervous system responses that slow heart rate and ease tension. Evolutionarily, humans evolved near water sources, making these environments deeply embedded in our biology as places of safety and restoration. Modern urban life often disconnects us from this natural influence, but neuroscience confirms that reconnecting with water can reset our minds in powerful, lasting ways. So, water is not just a backdrop. It actively transforms your brain chemistry, rewiring your awareness and emotion every time you come close. Imagine your memories as files stored in a vast mental archive, but unlike a perfect filing system, yours is wildly disorganized and emotional. Neuroscience reveals that memories are not stored with factual precision, but are misfiled according to the emotions attached at the moment of encoding. This means a seemingly small event can be etched with intense pain or joy, while major experiences might blur into forgetfulness if emotions were muted. The amygdala, the brain's emotional center, tags memories with emotional weight, influencing where and how they're stored in the hippocampus and cortex. This explains why a harsh word from a stranger can hurt deeper than a distant trauma, or why a forgotten birthday still stings. Psychological studies show that emotional misfiling creates disproportionate impact. Our brains prioritize emotional resonance over objective detail. Over time, these emotional files influence our behavior, shaping fears, biases, and reactions far beyond what the facts warrant. Understanding this rewires how we view personal history, trauma, and healing. Memories are less archives and more emotional mosaics, sometimes fractured, often misfiled, but always powerfully shaping who we become. Imagine waking up every day to the same actions, the same patterns. You brush your teeth, commute, work, eat, sleep, and repeat. But while you feel like you're simply managing life, weeks, months, even years quietly slip away. Science reveals that routine dulls the brain's perception of time passing. Our sense of time relies heavily on new experiences and novel memories. When days blur into repetitive cycles, fewer unique memories form, causing time to feel compressed or even vanished. Psychologists call this the holiday paradox, where time flies in monotonous routines but stretches during new adventures. Neuroimaging studies show that the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, fires less when experiences are repetitive, weakening temporal markers that help us track passing moments. For example, after years of the same job or daily schedule, people often reflect and realize how quickly time disappeared, despite feeling like they lived through it. This phenomenon explains why life sometimes feels like it passes unnoticed, leaving us longing for meaning beyond mere management. Recognizing how routine hides time's flow can inspire us to seek novelty, breaking the cycle to reclaim moments before they vanish into the past. Imagine your emotions aren't entirely your own, that beneath every feeling lies a hidden orchestra of chemical signals conducting your mood. Science reveals that what feels like free, spontaneous emotion is often shaped by factors beyond conscious control: gut bacteria, sleep quality, and unseen molecular messengers in your body. The gut-brain axis shows how trillions of microbes in your digestive system produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, influencing anxiety and happiness. Poor sleep disrupts hormone balance, clouding judgment and amplifying negative feelings. Even tiny fluctuations in chemicals like dopamine and cortisol whisper instructions to your brain, nudging you toward joy, fear, or calm. For example, studies demonstrate that changing gut bacteria through diet or probiotics can alter mood and cognitive function. This biochemical symphony means your emotional life is a complex interplay between mind and body, genes and environment. You aren't just feeling, you're responding to a vast internal ecosystem signaling what to experience. Understanding this challenges the idea of pure emotional freedom, revealing how biology guides your feelings with subtle, powerful influence. This insight invites compassion for yourself when moods shift without clear cause and opens new paths to emotional health by tuning into the unseen chemical dialogue within. Your emotions are not just yours. They are whispered to you by the living chemistry inside. Imagine locking onto a belief so tightly that everything else fades into the background. Evidence that contradicts it slips by unnoticed, while information that supports it shines brightly. This is not mere stubbornness, it's a fundamental wiring of the human brain. Once you adopt a belief, your mind stops actively searching for alternatives. You see what fits and discard what disrupts. Cognitive science calls this phenomenon confirmation bias. It's the brain's way of reducing uncertainty and conserving mental energy by filtering incoming information to match existing views. Neurologically, belief activates reward centers in the brain, releasing dopamine that feels satisfying, encouraging you to cling to that belief even when confronted with conflicting data. For example, if you believe you're bad at math, you'll notice every mistake and forget every success, reinforcing the narrative. Politically, people consume news and opinions that align with their worldview, ignoring opposing facts as noise. This selective attention shapes reality, creating echo chambers that strengthen beliefs and blind the mind. This bias can be both adaptive and dangerous. It helps build coherent worldviews quickly, but blinds us to truth and growth, fostering division and misunderstanding. Overcoming it requires conscious effort, questioning assumptions, seeking diverse perspectives, and embracing uncertainty. So, next time you feel certain, ask, are you seeing the full picture, or just the parts your beliefs allow you to see? Because beliefs don't just shape thoughts, they create blindness. Imagine entering a room and suddenly feeling a wave of unease or sadness, even though nothing visible has changed. This sensation isn't just in your head. Science reveals that places can hold emotional residue, subtly influencing our feelings. Environmental psychology shows that human experiences leave unconscious imprints on spaces, stored through scent, sound, and subtle cues that your brain picks up on. Studies in neuroscience demonstrate that sensory inputs from environments trigger emotional memories. For example, a room where intense emotions occurred can evoke similar feelings later, through conditioned associations. This is why some corners feel heavy or unsettling, even if no one else notices. Research on emotional contagion extends beyond people to places, where ambient factors like lighting, temperature, and even air quality affect mood. Historical trauma sites often carry collective emotional weight, showing how shared memory anchors feeling in physical locations. Furthermore, your brain's limbic system integrates spatial and emotional data, creating maps of emotional experience tied to places. These subconscious connections mean that rooms act like emotional mirrors, reflecting and amplifying stored feelings. So, places trap emotion not through magic, but through the science of memory, perception, and sensory imprinting, explaining why certain spaces feel alive with feelings you can't see but deeply sense. Yes, Tess. Imagine a single scent drifting through the air, an aroma so familiar it instantly transports you to a place long forgotten. Science shows that smells have a unique power to unlock locked rooms in your brain, opening memories sealed for decades. Unlike other senses, smell connects directly to the brain's limbic system, the emotional core that governs memory and feelings. This direct link explains why a whiff of an old perfume or the scent of rain on dry earth can revive vivid images of people you mourned, moments you buried, or hopes you once held dear. Neuroscientists reveal that these olfactory triggers bypass the rational mind, flooding the hippocampus and amygdala with sensory data that reactivates dormant neural pathways. Unlike visual or auditory cues, smells often evoke raw, emotional recollections, sometimes overwhelming in their intensity. This powerful connection between scent and memory reveals how deeply intertwined our senses and emotions are, and how even the faintest aroma can reopen chapters of our past thought long closed. Understanding this unlocks new paths for healing and remembering, showing how smell acts as a key to the deepest rooms of our inner world. Imagine sitting silently, saying nothing, but still sending out messages. Even in silence, you constantly broadcast your emotions, your posture, the dilation of your pupils, the rhythm of your breathing, all become signals that reveal what you don't say aloud. Science shows that humans are wired to communicate beyond words, using subtle, unconscious cues picked up by others. Psychologists call this nonverbal communication, and it can convey feelings like fear, confidence, or sadness more powerfully than speech. For example, when stressed, your pupils dilate, your breathing quickens, and your body tenses. Silent broadcasts others instinctively detect. Mirror neurons in our brains allow us to resonate emotionally with these signals, creating empathy and understanding without a single word spoken. Even micro-expressions, fleeting facial changes lasting milliseconds, reveal true emotions hidden beneath conscious control. So, silence isn't empty. It's a rich channel of unspoken communication. You are always sending, always readable, if others know how to look closely. Imagine history not as fixed truth, but as a theater of memory, where what you learn is a crafted performance shaped by survivors who wrote the scripts. Science and historiography reveal that history is filtered through bias, perspective, and the selective stories those in power choose to preserve. Archaeology and archival studies show how records are incomplete, altered, or destroyed, leaving gaps filled by interpretation and myth. For example, many historical events are remembered differently depending on who tells the tale. Victors rewrite narratives to justify actions and erase inconvenient truths. Collective memory research shows how societies shape shared pasts to build identity, sometimes sacrificing accuracy for cohesion. You live inside these constructed stories, unaware that your understanding of the past is shaped by those who survived and wrote it down, not an objective reality. This realization challenges your trust in historical facts, revealing history as a living, evolving performance where truth dances with fiction. Understanding this invites deeper critical thinking about the past and your place within its ongoing narrative, reminding us that history is less a record and more a stage, where memory, power, and identity play eternal roles. Imagine walking down a supermarket aisle and instantly trusting a product because of its sleek packaging, crisp fonts, and spotless design. This reaction isn't accidental. It's a deeply rooted psychological response. Cleanliness and polish signal truth to your brain, while clutter and chaos raise red flags, suggesting deception or danger. Research in cognitive psychology shows that humans associate order and symmetry with honesty and reliability. Visual clarity reduces cognitive load, making information easier to process and accept as true. Brands exploit this by using minimalistic designs and sharp typography to convey credibility and professionalism. This bias extends beyond marketing. In news media, websites with clean layouts are perceived as more trustworthy, regardless of content accuracy. Even personal appearance affects judgments. People in tidy, well-groomed states are often deemed more sincere. Evolutionarily, disorder and messiness were warnings of risk, disease, predators, or instability. Our brains evolved to favor neatness as a shortcut to safety and truth. But this shortcut can mislead, making polished lies appear more believable than messy truths. So next time you trust something just because it looks clean and polished, remember, your brain is using a shortcut, equating aesthetics with honesty. But true truth isn't always tidy. It sometimes hides beneath chaos. Imagine clearing out clutter and feeling more than just physical space opening up. Sometimes it triggers a deep mental crisis. This is no coincidence. Psychology reveals that the items we keep are often intertwined with our identity and memories. When you remove these physical markers too quickly, you risk destabilizing the mental maps that hold your sense of self together. Neuroscientists explain that memories are linked to sensory cues, including objects in your environment. These anchors help organize your personal narrative. When clutter is discarded rapidly, the brain loses these cues, causing confusion and emotional disorientation. Studies show that people undergoing major decluttering can experience anxiety, sadness, or even grief, as if losing parts of themselves. This identity loss can manifest as mental unraveling, especially if change is abrupt without psychological preparation. Therapists emphasize gradual decluttering and intentional reflection to preserve continuity of self. The process becomes a balance between letting go and retaining enough to maintain mental stability. So, decluttering is not just physical removal, it's an emotional and cognitive journey. Removing items too fast can unsettle your mind by erasing the tangible threads that weave your identity, making fresh starts both liberating and challenging. Imagine feeling pure joy, a moment so intense it feels almost overwhelming. But what if your brain has built-in limits to happiness? Neuroscience reveals that joy has a ceiling. Your brain restricts how much pleasure you can safely experience to maintain emotional balance. This protective mechanism prevents emotional overload, which can be destabilizing or even dangerous. When joy reaches this upper limit, your mind may unconsciously trigger self-sabotage, doubts, worries, or behaviors that pull you back from peak happiness. Psychologists explain this as emotional homeostasis, where the brain strives to keep feelings within a comfortable range. For example, after a big win or success, you might find yourself doubting your achievements or creating conflict, as if your mind resists staying too high for too long. This phenomenon helps explain why sustained happiness is elusive and why emotional crashes follow great highs. Understanding this ceiling shows how your brain safeguards your well-being by balancing joy with caution, reminding us that emotional extremes are rare and true contentment lies in equilibrium. Imagine recalling a memory so vivid, so detailed, you're certain it happened to you. But what if that memory isn't yours at all? Science shows our brains are remarkably suggestible, absorbing stories, dreams, and even fragments from relatives' recollections, blurring the lines between what we experienced and what we inherited. Psychologists call this phenomenon memory implantation, where imagined or overheard events become integrated into our personal memories. Studies reveal that family narratives and shared experiences can create false but deeply felt memories, as if you lived them yourself. Even dreams can feel real enough to overwrite actual memories. Neuroscience uncovers how overlapping neural pathways process these borrowed memories similarly to authentic ones, making it difficult for the brain to distinguish the origin. This explains why sometimes you carry emotions tied to events you never personally lived. So, some memories aren't yours. They belong to another mind, quietly echoing within your own. Recognizing this challenges our sense of identity and questions how memory shapes who we truly are. Imagine music as a secret code that reaches deep inside you, hacking your nervous system with invisible power. Science reveals that sound waves, especially music's rhythms and melodies, influence your heartbeat, breathing, and brain waves almost instantly, faster than conscious thought. When you hear a steady drum beat, your pulse synchronizes, calming or energizing you. Melodies stimulate the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, creating feelings of joy, nostalgia, or even tears. For example, studies show that listening to slow, soothing music lowers blood pressure and reduces stress, while fast-paced tunes boost alertness and movement. Music activates brain regions involved in emotion, memory, and motor control, weaving physical and mental responses into one seamless experience. This neurological dance explains why a song can lift your mood, trigger memories, or even alter your pain perception. Music bypasses logic, speaking directly to your body's core, hacking the system with subtle, profound influence. It's a universal language wired into your biology, capable of shaping your inner world long before you realize it. Understanding this power opens doors to healing, connection, and transformation through sound, revealing music as more than art. It's a key to your nervous system's deepest workings. Imagine feeling the surge of satisfaction that comes with ticking off a task, believing you're advancing toward your goals. Yet, What if this sense of progress is less about actual change and more about emotional momentum? Your brain's clever trick to keep you moving, even if you're just circling old patterns? Progress is often a feeling, not a fact. Neuroscience reveals that dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, floods your system when you complete actions or anticipate success. This flood creates motivation, a sense of achievement that encourages repetition. But dopamine doesn't measure real progress. It measures expectation and reward. So, you might feel forward movement simply by staying busy or sticking to familiar routines, even if they don't lead anywhere new. Psychologists call this illusory progress. For example, reorganizing your desk repeatedly may feel productive, but doesn't necessarily bring you closer to your actual goals. Similarly, maintaining surface level changes can mask deeper stagnation. This emotional momentum sustains habits, sometimes preventing true transformation by giving a false sense of accomplishment. Understanding that progress is a feeling helps break cycles. Real growth requires reflection, challenging comfort zones, and distinguishing between activity and meaningful change. So next time you feel proud of moving forward, ask yourself, is this real progress or just the brain's way of keeping you comfortable in old patterns? Because sometimes the hardest step is realizing that feeling good isn't always moving ahead. Imagine that at some point in your life, you've already come close to death without ever realizing it. Science tells us that near-death experiences are far more common than we think. Many people survive accidents, illnesses, or dangers by mere chance or intervention. Statistically, throughout your life, you've narrowly escaped fatal moments, moments that could have ended your existence. While you continued living, countless others have lost their lives, sometimes in similar circumstances, or even by a twist of fate that spared you but claimed them. This idea touches on the concept of survivor bias and the randomness of mortality, where your survival is not guaranteed, but a fortunate outcome amid countless others who did not survive. Medical research shows that unrecorded near-death events happen regularly, and many people have unconscious memories or subtle scars of these brushes with mortality. Your body and mind carry traces of these close calls, shaping your health and awareness. Philosophically, this means your life is a fragile thread woven through a vast fabric of chance and loss. Someone's life ended in your place, an unseen exchange that underlines the preciousness and unpredictability of existence. So, you've already died once, statistically speaking, surviving by a thread while others did not. Recognizing this deepens appreciation for life's fragile miracle and the invisible threads connecting all who live and die. Imagine hearing someone say, "I'm fine," or "maybe later." Simple phrases that seem harmless, almost casual. But psychology reveals these words carry enormous power, masking complex emotional storms beneath their quiet surface. These small statements act like psychological shields, disguising pain, hesitation, or conflict that the speaker may not be ready to reveal. Neuroscience shows that the brain often uses such simplicity as a defense mechanism, compressing overwhelming feelings into brief, socially acceptable responses. This creates a tension where what's unsaid carries more weight than what's spoken. These phrases can hold entire worlds of fear, sadness, or doubt, shaping relationships and internal experiences far beyond their apparent calm. Understanding this power helps us listen more deeply, to recognize that silence or simplicity often hides the most intense emotional struggles, reminding us that beneath stillness, storms quietly rage. Imagine feeling time slip away as anxiety rises, moments shrink, colors lose vibrancy, and the world closes in around you. When stressed, your perception compresses. Neuroscience reveals that during acute anxiety, the brain's attentional systems tunnel your focus narrowly on escape or threat, suppressing broader sensory input. This survival mechanism prioritizes immediate danger over detail, making time feel accelerated or shortened. Studies show the amygdala activates intensely, modulating sensory regions to dull color perception and reduce peripheral awareness. This creates a sensory bottleneck, where stimuli outside the threat zone fade into shadows. Psychologists call this attentional narrowing, which is why stressful events seem to pass in a blur and memories feel fragmented. Your experience of reality isn't fixed, it warps with emotion. Stress reshapes your internal clock and sensory filters, turning your world into a compressed tunnel aimed at survival. Understanding this biological compression offers insight into how anxiety rewires perception and how calming the mind can reopen the richness of your world. Imagine stepping into a room where the air itself carries echoes of past emotions, arguments, laughter, grief, whispering through invisible molecules. Science explores how environments hold subtle traces of human presence, influencing mood and perception. While air doesn't literally remember, research in environmental psychology shows that spaces absorb and reflect emotional energy through sensory cues. Smells, temperature, light, and sound vibrations all shape how you feel upon entering. For example, a room where conflict occurred might feel tense due to heightened alertness linked to subtle cues like lingering scents or body language imprints on objects. Studies on emotional contagion reveal how moods transfer between people and their surroundings, creating atmospheres that affect newcomers unconsciously. This invisible emotional residue can trigger memories or feelings without conscious awareness, shaping your experience before you speak or act. Understanding this reveals how deeply intertwined we are with our environments, that emotions aren't just internal, but seep into the very spaces we inhabit. The atmosphere becomes a silent storyteller, carrying the weight of human experience, reminding us that places hold more than objects. They hold feelings, waiting to be felt again. Imagine stepping into a room and instantly feeling energized, your mental battery humming back to life simply because of who's there. Then picture another time when being near someone leaves you exhausted, as if your energy's been siphoned away. This isn't just about emotions or moods. It's a biological phenomenon rooted deeply in how human brains and bodies connect. Neuroscience shows that social interactions trigger complex biochemical responses. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, floods your system when you engage with supportive people, enhancing feelings of safety and vitality. Mirror neurons activate as you subconsciously sync with others' emotions and behaviors, fostering empathy and connection that replenish your energy. Conversely, stressful or draining interactions can elevate cortisol, the stress hormone, leading to fatigue, heightened alertness, and emotional exhaustion. This biological response conserves resources during perceived threats, but can leave you depleted after prolonged exposure. Studies on introversion and extroversion reveal that some people naturally recharge through social contact, while others recover best in solitude, reflecting differences in neurological sensitivity and arousal regulation. So next time you notice how certain people uplift or drain you, remember, it's not just in your head, it's your body responding, biologically wired to recharge or recoil through the power of human connection. Choosing who surrounds you is more than emotional. It's essential self-care at a cellular level. Imagine standing at a crossroads where every tiny decision you make, whether to say yes or no, to move left or right, doesn't just affect your life, but spins off entire new realities. Each choice threads a fresh version of the world, weaving a complex, branching cosmos that grows invisibly behind your steps. Reality isn't a single path, but an intricate tapestry of countless possibilities unfolding simultaneously. Quantum physics introduces us to this astonishing idea through the many worlds interpretation. It suggests that all possible outcomes of every decision actually happen, each in its own parallel universe. When you decide, the universe doesn't collapse into one reality, but splits, creating divergent paths where every alternative choice exists somewhere. This means your life is not just a linear story, but a vast, multi-threaded narrative. The small acts, a smile, a pause, a different word, can ripple across these threads, shaping worlds you will never see, but that exist nonetheless. Your what-ifs are not fantasies, but real roads traveled by other versions of you. Philosophically, this challenges the idea of fixed destiny. You are not just following a path, but continuously crafting infinite realities, each decision a stitch in the cosmic fabric. So next time you face a choice, realize the power you hold. With every yes or no, you don't just shape your life, you birth new universes, endlessly branching behind you in the vastness of existence. Imagine sinking into a warm wave of nostalgia, not just longing for the past, but yearning for a version of yourself untouched by the world's harsh truths. Nostalgia isn't merely memory, it's a sedative, a soothing balm that numbs present pain by recalling who you were before life's losses and betrayals reshaped you. Psychologists explain that nostalgia activates the brain's reward centers, releasing dopamine and oxytocin, chemicals tied to pleasure and bonding. This biochemical cocktail reduces stress and loneliness, making the past feel safer and more comforting than the unpredictable present. But this relief comes with a cost. It blurs reality, glossing over pain and loss, and creates a rose-tinted version of who you were. Neurologically, nostalgia engages the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, regions involved in memory and emotional regulation, helping you reconstruct past experiences with emotional warmth. It's why a song, scent, or photo can flood you with feelings that feel like a refuge. But the true longing isn't for the events themselves. It's for the innocence, hope, and unshattered identity that existed before you understood the world's capacity to wound. Nostalgia sedates by wrapping you in that protective illusion, momentarily shielding you from present fears and doubts. So next time you feel nostalgic, know this: you're not just remembering the past, you're seeking the comfort of a self before the world taught you how fragile you really are. Imagine waking up each day feeling that your value hinges not on who you are, but on what you produce. Productivity becomes more than a task, it becomes your identity. When you're not doing, you feel invisible, as if your very existence depends on constant output. This isn't just a modern pressure, it's a profound psychological pattern rooted deeply in human cognition and society. Neuroscience shows that accomplishing tasks releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, creating a feedback loop that ties self-worth to achievement. This chemical surge feels good, encouraging continuous work to sustain the feeling. Over time, your brain learns to equate doing with being, productivity with purpose. Psychologists call this work identity fusion, where personal value is inseparable from performance. In cultures that emphasize achievement, people often suffer anxiety and low self-esteem during downtime, struggling with feelings of emptiness or invisibility. This dynamic can be harmful. When productivity replaces intrinsic identity, rest feels like failure, and self-compassion becomes scarce. Burnout ensues as people chase output to prove they matter. Understanding this rewiring helps break the cycle. True worth lies not in constant doing, but in simply being, recognizing that your existence has value beyond measurable achievements. So next time you equate your worth with your work, remember, you are more than your productivity. Your value is inherent, not earned through endless output. Imagine hearing a sharp beep or a sudden doorbell ring and instantly reacting, not because you consciously decided to, but because your brain compelled you to. Certain sounds have a powerful hold over human behavior, controlling actions more effectively than reason or reflection. These auditory triggers bypass conscious thought, compelling immediate responses rooted deep in our biology. Neuroscience reveals that sounds like alarms, pings, or bells activate the brain's reticular activating system, which governs alertness and attention. This system is designed to detect important stimuli rapidly, prioritizing survival. When such sounds occur, they spark an automatic, almost reflexive response, preparing your body to act before your conscious mind fully processes the signal. Psychologists call this the startle reflex, or orienting response, our brain's way of swiftly shifting focus to potential threats or important cues. This is why alarms cause instant action, even in people who are asleep or distracted. The association between specific tones and required behavior is often learned and reinforced through repetition, like the ringing phone meaning answer now. Marketers and interface designers exploit this too. Notification sounds compel users to check phones or devices immediately, overriding other priorities. These auditory cues hijack attention effortlessly, illustrating how sound shapes behavior below conscious awareness. So, next time you respond instantly to a beep or chime, remember, sound is a powerful controller, weaving obedience into your actions without your mind's approval, an invisible command encoded in the vibrations around you. Imagine living in a world of endless noise and unpredictability, where every moment threatens to overwhelm your senses. In such chaos, repetition, ritual, and symmetry become more than comforting. They become essential scaffolding for your brain, helping it build order amid disorder. These patterns don't just soothe anxiety, they provide a framework your mind clings to when reality feels too complex to grasp. Neuroscience shows that the brain craves predictability. The prefrontal cortex and hippocampus work together to detect patterns and create mental maps, reducing cognitive load and conserving energy. When repetition and symmetry appear, they signal safety and control, calming neural circuits linked to stress and uncertainty. Rituals and repeated behaviors engage the basal ganglia, forming habits that automate responses and reduce decision fatigue. This automaticity frees mental resources, allowing your brain to function efficiently despite external chaos. Anthropologists observe that cultures worldwide embed rituals and symmetrical designs into daily life, creating collective stability and shared meaning. These structures reinforce social cohesion and individual well-being, anchoring people to something reliable in an unpredictable world. So when you find comfort in routine or symmetry, remember, you're not just seeking ease, you're building mental scaffolding, a vital architecture that helps your brain navigate and survive the beautiful, bewildering chaos of existence. Imagine feeling a sudden pang of anxiety before an important event and instinctively touching wood, avoiding cracks in the pavement, or repeating a comforting mantra. These acts, though logically irrational, aren't random habits. They're powerful tools your mind uses to soothe the ache of uncertainty. Superstitions don't work in a causal sense, but they calm chaos by offering a fragile sense of control when the world feels unpredictable. Psychologists explain this through the concept of magical thinking, where actions are believed to influence outcomes despite lacking causal connection. When faced with uncertainty, the brain craves predictability and control to reduce anxiety. Superstitions provide ritualized behavior that temporarily satisfies this need, triggering neural pathways linked to comfort and safety. Neuroscientific studies reveal that performing superstitious rituals activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, which alleviates stress and enhances focus. This biochemical response makes the ritual feel effective, reinforcing the behavior even without real-world impact. Culturally, superstitions bind communities, creating shared practices that ease collective fears. Whether knocking on wood or crossing fingers, these actions symbolize hope and resilience in the face of randomness. So next time you find yourself following a superstition, understand it as your brain's way of rewriting chaos into calm, a psychological anchor in an uncertain world, proving that sometimes belief is its own kind of power. Imagine walking into a room and immediately sensing something is off, not because of what's there, but because of what's missing. The absence of a familiar voice, the empty chair where someone used to sit, the sudden silence replacing once familiar noise. Absence feels heavier than presence, gripping your attention more intensely than anything that fills space. Psychologists call this the negativity bias, a survival mechanism where the brain prioritizes detecting losses and voids over gains. Missing cues signal potential threats or changes requiring urgent attention. Evolutionarily, noticing absence like a missing companion or predator's disappearance could mean danger, prompting heightened awareness. Neurologically, brain regions like the amygdala activate strongly when confronted with absence, triggering emotional responses more powerful than those elicited by presence. This explains why a text unanswered or a forgotten birthday weighs on us deeply, creating emotional echoes that linger longer than joyful interactions. Absence also amplifies memory and imagination. The mind fills gaps with longing, uncertainty, or fear, intensifying feelings of loss or anticipation. Silence can scream louder than words, forcing reflection and emotional confrontation. So next time you feel the weight of something missing, know it's not just longing or sadness, it's your brain's primal alert system, making absence feel more real, more urgent, and undeniably heavier than presence. Imagine being a vivid presence in someone's life once, shared laughs, whispered secrets, countless moments, only to find that, to them now, you've become something else entirely. You're no longer real, but a ghost, a memory they replay in silence or a shadow they avoid, haunting a time they can never return to. Psychologists explain this through the nature of memory and emotional processing. Our brains don't store people as static images, but as evolving narratives colored by current feelings and distance. Over time, memories fade, distort, or harden into symbolic echoes, reminders not of who you truly are now, but of who you once were in their story. Neurologically, recalling someone activates networks linked to emotion, identity, and personal meaning. For some, these memories comfort. For others, they trigger pain or avoidance. Thus, you become less a living person and more a spectral figure in their mental landscape, a ghost tethered to moments they cherish or regret. This ghostly existence underscores the fragile, transient nature of relationships and identity. While you move forward, grow, and change, you remain frozen in someone else's mind, a haunting reminder of a past they can neither reclaim nor fully let go. So next time you wonder how you live in others' memories, remember, to them, you are a ghost, an echo of time, emotion, and change, forever haunting the spaces between presence and absence. Imagine stepping into a room bathed in red light and suddenly feeling your heart race, your senses sharpened, and time seeming to speed up around you. Then picture the calming wash of blue slowing your breath, stretching moments into peaceful stillness. Colors aren't just visual experiences, they're emotional architects, silently shaping your mood and perception through an unseen language encoded in light. Scientific studies reveal how colors affect the brain and body in profound ways. Red stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, increasing heart rate and adrenaline, creating a sense of urgency or excitement. This is why red is used in warning signs and fast food branding to grab attention and energize. Blue, on the other hand, activates the parasympathetic system, promoting relaxation and slowing cognitive processes, which can make time feel more expansive. It's the color of calm oceans and clear skies, used in environments designed for focus and tranquility. Yellow, bright, and stimulating, boosts serotonin production, waking the mind and elevating mood, while black grounds perception, absorbing distractions and fostering introspection and depth. This spectrum of color-mood interactions guides your emotional landscape daily, often without your awareness. From clothing choices to interior design, colors manipulate feelings, decisions, and even physiological states. So next time you find your emotions shifting in a colored space, remember, you're living inside a vibrant emotional spectrum, where unseen color languages dictate how you feel, think, and perceive the flow of time itself. Imagine drifting into a daydream, a vivid scene where you exact revenge, find perfect love, or escape to a place untouched by your daily struggles. These fantasies might seem like harmless escapes, but each one subtly rewires your identity. By rehearsing lives not lived but deeply felt, daydreams become mental blueprints that reshape how you perceive yourself and the world. Neuroscience reveals that imagining scenarios activates the same neural circuits involved in actual experience, particularly in the prefrontal cortex and limbic system, areas tied to decision-making, emotion, and self-perception. Repeatedly envisioning a fantasy strengthens these pathways, embedding new emotional responses and expectations. Psychologists note that daydreams allow you to explore desires and fears safely, but this mental rehearsal can influence behavior, motivation, and self-image. For example, fantasizing about success can boost confidence and goal pursuit, while ruminating on revenge might increase anger and mistrust. Over time, these imagined narratives become part of your internal story, subtly shifting your identity toward the feelings and roles you embody in your mind's eye. Daydreams act as rehearsal spaces for emotional growth, or traps that reinforce limiting patterns. So next time you find yourself lost in thought, know this: your daydreams are not just flights of fancy, but powerful architects of your evolving self, quietly rewriting who you are with every imagined scene. Imagine the colors, shapes, and styles you gravitate toward, your favorite look. It feels personal, natural, even spontaneous. But beneath the surface, these preferences are far from neutral. They are shaped by deep-rooted belief systems embedded in design, color, and form. Your aesthetic choices carry hidden messages, ideologies transmitted through culture, history, and social power. What you find beautiful or appealing is not just your taste, it's a subtle form of propaganda. Every era's art and design express dominant values and norms. For example, the minimalism craze reflects ideals of efficiency, control, and order prized in modern capitalist societies. The preference for bright colors or certain patterns may be tied to cultural signaling or status. Even the seemingly innocent appeal of symmetry taps into evolutionary wiring, but also into long-standing ideas of perfection and hierarchy. Advertising and media constantly reinforce these visual codes, training us to desire what sells power and privilege. When you choose a style, you unconsciously align with the ideologies it carries, whether it's consumerism, rebellion, tradition, or progress. This shaping happens so subtly, it often escapes awareness, making your personal aesthetic a mirror of broader social forces. Understanding that aesthetics are ideological lets you question and reclaim your tastes. It invites you to see style not just as self-expression, but as a complex negotiation with cultural narratives. Your look is a message, one that can reinforce or resist the world's dominant stories. So next time you choose a color or a shape, remember, aesthetics are never neutral. They are powerful languages of belief. Imagine slipping on a smile when your heart feels heavy, forcing laughter when your soul aches. It's a common act, pretending to be happy, and science shows it can actually make you feel better. This is called the facial feedback hypothesis, where the simple movement of your facial muscles sends signals to your brain that influence your emotions. By acting happy, your brain can release dopamine and serotonin, chemicals linked to joy and well-being. But there's a deeper, more complex layer beneath this. Pretending isn't just a momentary mask. Over time, the mask can start to blur with your true self. Psychologists warn that constantly acting like someone you're not risks erasing authenticity. Your brain adapts to repeated behavior patterns, and what began as a conscious choice can morph into subconscious identity. The emotions you express shape the neural pathways of your brain. If you persistently act happy without resolving the underlying sadness, your brain may become confused, making the mask your default face. This can lead to emotional dissociation, where you lose touch with your real feelings because your outward expression no longer matches your internal truth. Take the example of surface acting versus deep acting in emotional labor. Surface acting is faking emotions without changing your internal state, like a waiter smiling despite being upset. Deep acting involves genuinely trying to feel the emotion you're showing. Research reveals deep acting improves well-being, but surface acting can increase stress and burnout. So the difference between pretending to be happy and truly becoming happier lies in the alignment of internal feelings with external behavior. It's a delicate balance. Acting can heal, but only if it doesn't overwrite the genuine self. The mask can become the face, but the face beneath must still be honored, understood, and nurtured. True happiness grows not from performance, but from authentic connection with our emotions. Pretending is only a temporary bridge, not a destination. Imagine hearing voices not from your own mind, but from generations before you, whispers of unresolved pain, long buried guilt, and unspoken desires encoded deep within your very being. These are not fantasies. This is the science of epigenetics, revealing how your ancestors' experiences echo through your DNA. Our bodies carry more than genes. They carry memories of trauma and triumph passed down, shaping how we react, feel, and think without conscious awareness. Studies on survivors of extreme trauma, like the descendants of Holocaust survivors, show altered stress responses and inherited anxiety patterns, meaning their fears live on in their grandchildren. It's as if the emotional battles fought decades ago leave chemical marks on DNA, influencing the brain's wiring and even behavior. This means when you wrestle with inner conflicts or inexplicable fears, you might actually be echoing struggles your family never fully resolved. This biological inheritance silently scripts parts of your identity, replaying ancestral arguments and grief in your mind. For example, if an ancestor lived in constant fear or shame, their descendants may carry a heightened sense of vigilance or a tendency toward guilt, even if the original trauma is centuries old. Understanding this connection can be both liberating and daunting. It invites us to face not only our own wounds but those layered in the bloodline, to heal not just individually but collectively. So, next time you feel caught in a cycle of unresolved emotion, remember, you're not alone. You are the living echo of your ancestors, carrying their stories encoded in your cells, waiting for you to listen, understand, and finally break free. Imagine a world where the simple presence of money rewires your brain's moral compass. Neuroscience reveals that when money enters a decision, your empathy doesn't just fade, it transforms. Studies using brain imaging show that areas responsible for emotional connection, like the insula and the medial prefrontal cortex, dial down activity during financial transactions. The closer the transaction feels, say, handing cash directly to someone, the more detached your empathy becomes. Conversely, donating anonymously or helping without any financial exchange activates empathy centers robustly. This shift isn't just theoretical. In behavioral experiments, participants were less likely to help strangers when asked to pay money up front, but more willing if no money was involved or if the exchange was indirect. It's as if the brain erects a psychological barrier, separating cold calculation from warm human connection. Money introduces a transactional mindset that can override instinctual compassion, making ethical decisions contingent on cost-benefit analysis rather than pure goodwill. The implications ripple through everyday life, from business negotiations to charitable giving and even personal relationships. When money infiltrates choice, moral clarity blurs, leaving us vulnerable to justifying actions we might otherwise reject. Understanding this hidden mechanism challenges us to question how much of our kindness is genuine and how much is simply a price we're willing to pay. Imagine living in a world where every object, person, and experience is instantly sorted into neat boxes in your mind, a survival shortcut that keeps you safe but also blurs the rich complexity of reality. This is how our brains need to label everything shapes perception, simplifying infinite nuance into rigid categories. Neuroscience shows that categorization is crucial for quick decisions, helping us recognize threats or allies in milliseconds. But this mental filing system comes with a cost. Once something is labeled, our brain filters information to fit that category, ignoring contradictions or exceptions. For example, when you think of danger, your brain activates patterns tied to past experiences, causing you to overlook subtle signs that challenge that label. This is why stereotypes persist, and why people often misunderstand each other despite abundant evidence to the contrary. Labeling distorts reality by collapsing fluid, dynamic phenomena into static boxes, making the world seem simpler but less true. The rich gray areas, the paradoxes, the contradictions, the evolving identities are lost in the process. Understanding this mental shortcut can help you pause, question your assumptions, and embrace complexity instead of defaulting to easy labels. So, next time you catch yourself categorizing someone or something, remember, you might be trading clarity for survival at the expense of truth. Imagine standing still while time seems to stretch and warp around you. Waiting isn't just boredom, it changes how your brain experiences time itself. Neuroscience shows that anticipation triggers the brain's emotional circuits, especially the amygdala and insula, which amplify your awareness of passing moments. When you anxiously await something, seconds dilate into what feels like minutes, hours even. This emotional stretching happens because your brain heightens focus on the waiting, turning it into a hyper-aware state. Studies reveal that when people anticipate a painful stimulus, time feels longer, as if the clock slows. Conversely, joyful anticipation compresses time, making waits seem shorter. This isn't just subjective. Experiments with time estimation show our internal clocks speed up or slow down based on how emotionally charged the waiting period is. The texture of time itself changes, thickening with dread or thinning with excitement, profoundly shaping our experience of reality. Waiting creates a paradox where the same objective seconds stretch or collapse, revealing how deeply intertwined time perception is with emotion. This phenomenon explains why waiting in line feels endless, yet moments of joy fly by. It's a hidden trick of the mind that alters the fabric of your lived experience. Imagine feeling so overwhelmed that the world blurs, days slip by, and you can't recall what happened. This isn't just exhaustion, it's burnout hijacking your memory. When your brain is overloaded with stress, it stops encoding new experiences properly. Encoding is the crucial first step in forming memories. Without it, moments pass unrecorded, like pages torn from your life story. Neuroscience shows chronic stress floods the brain with cortisol, a hormone that impairs the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory formation and emotional regulation. High cortisol levels shrink hippocampal cells, reducing their ability to create and store memories. That's why during intense burnout, you might struggle to remember simple details or entire chunks of time. Psychologists call this phenomenon burnout amnesia. It's common in caregivers, overworked professionals, and anyone facing relentless pressure without relief. Your brain prioritizes survival, shutting down non-essential functions like memory consolidation to conserve energy. This results in a foggy mental state where days blend into one another with no clear recollection. The erasure is not permanent but signals a warning: your brain is overwhelmed and needs recovery. Without proper rest, stress management, and self-care, memory loss deepens and cognitive functions deteriorate further. Burnout doesn't just steal your energy, it steals your past, leaving you trapped in a continuous present with no anchors in memory. To protect your mind, it's vital to recognize early signs of overload and prioritize mental breaks. Reclaiming memory means reclaiming your life's narrative, because every moment you remember is a thread in the fabric of who you are. Imagine the moment you weigh a precious memory or measure your time in mere seconds. What was once vivid and alive suddenly becomes cold data. Measurement is a powerful tool that helps us navigate the world, but it also changes how we experience it. Science shows that when we quantify emotions, time, or value, the rich, subjective feeling shrinks into numbers we manage rather than truly feel. For example, tracking every calorie or step can motivate health, but it also turns the joy of movement into a task, turning living into a ledger. Time measured in minutes can make moments feel rushed, robbing us of presence and depth. Economists quantify value to trade goods efficiently, yet this can reduce art, relationships, or happiness into mere assets, stripping them of meaning. Psychologists find that over-measuring aspects of life leads to detachment, where the heart's fullness is replaced by the mind's control. This shift from feeling to managing can protect us from chaos, but also disconnects us from the richness of lived experience. Understanding this paradox invites us to sometimes set aside the scales and clocks, to feel first and measure later, preserving the true meaning beneath the numbers. Imagine a life where being whole isn't the goal, but the illusion. Science and psychology show that human identity is not a seamless unity, but a mosaic of fragments, different selves, emotions, and memories overlapping and sometimes conflicting. Neuroscientific studies reveal the brain constantly integrates and rewires itself, creating ever-shifting patterns rather than a fixed whole. You're not broken because you're fragmented. You are real because you exist as a dynamic interplay of parts. Our sense of self arises from multiple neural networks communicating across the brain, each responsible for distinct functions like memory, emotion, and reasoning. Sometimes these parts clash, causing inner conflict or doubt, but that tension is the essence of being human. Psychological research shows embracing these fragments rather than seeking perfection leads to authentic self-acceptance and mental resilience. Philosophers from Heraclitus to modern thinkers argue that change and flux define existence itself. Wholeness, then, is a myth born from desire for stability in an ever-changing mind. Recognizing your fragmented nature frees you from unrealistic expectations and invites compassion for yourself and others. You are not incomplete. You are vibrantly, beautifully real because you are a living constellation of parts in constant motion. Imagine walking into a room and feeling a slight shift within, a change so subtle you barely notice it. Yet, this shift is your identity negotiating itself with the space, the people, and even your own reflection. We like to believe in a fixed, stable self, but psychology and neuroscience reveal that our personality constantly adapts, fluid and responsive to context. Every gaze that meets yours, every conversation you join, every mirror you glance into shapes the self you present and the self you feel inside. This phenomenon is called the situated self. Your brain does not hold a rigid identity. Instead, it dynamically constructs who you are moment by moment, blending past experiences, social cues, and internal states. Research shows that people subtly change their behavior, language, and even attitudes depending on the audience, often without conscious awareness. This flexibility helps us navigate social environments, but also means identity is never singular or permanent. Neuroscientifically, the brain's default mode network and social cognition circuits integrate external information to update self-perception continuously. Mirror neurons play a role in mimicking and adjusting expressions, reinforcing this ongoing negotiation. Even your memories of who you are can shift as new interactions reframe past events. This doesn't mean you lack authenticity. Instead, authenticity is found in this fluid dialogue between inner core and external world. Your identity is less a fixed statue and more a living conversation, always in flux, always adapting. Recognizing this helps embrace change, reduce self-judgment, and find freedom in the dance of being. You are many selves, negotiated in real time, reflecting the infinite complexity of human experience. Imagine standing in the middle of a swirling storm, watching lightning flash unpredictably, feeling chaos all around. But what if that chaos is actually a hidden pattern your mind can't yet grasp? Science reveals that what we often perceive as random or chaotic is simply order, too intricate or too vast for our current understanding. Complex systems, from weather to ecosystems to markets, operate with layers of interaction so subtle and interconnected that their true logic escapes our immediate perception. Take fractals, for example, patterns repeating endlessly at different scales, seeming chaotic up close but perfectly ordered when viewed as a whole. In neuroscience, brain activity appears noisy and erratic at times, yet these fluctuations underpin the harmony of consciousness. Even in quantum physics, particles behave unpredictably, but within that randomness lies a fundamental order described by probability waves. This means that chaos is not absence of pattern, but a complexity beyond our resolution, a challenge to expand our minds rather than fear disorder. Recognizing this invites patience and curiosity, reminding us that beneath apparent randomness, the universe hums with unseen rhythm and purpose. Imagine waking from a dream that slips away like smoke, elusive, fading, but its echoes linger in your waking mind. Neuroscience reveals that while we often forget the full story of dreams, fragments seep into our emotions, choices, and fears throughout the day. The brain's limbic system, responsible for emotion and memory, remains active during REM sleep, weaving dream experiences into our subconscious. Studies show dreams influence decision-making by shaping mood and subconscious biases, even if the narrative itself is lost. For example, unresolved anxiety in dreams can heighten fear responses when awake, while positive dreams may subtly boost confidence or creativity. The hippocampus, critical for memory consolidation, selectively filters dream content, allowing only emotional residues to permeate conscious thought. This blending blurs the boundary between sleep and wakefulness, making dreams not mere nighttime stories, but active participants in our psychological landscape. Your dreams don't vanish. They leave invisible footprints, shaping how you perceive and react to the world. Recognizing this hidden influence invites curiosity about the silent dialogue between your dreaming mind and waking self, a mysterious, ongoing conversation beneath your awareness. Imagine staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never comes. That silence isn't neutral. It reverberates loud and clear in your mind. When someone doesn't text back, your brain doesn't simply accept the void. It fills it with stories, fears, and fantasies because silence feels like intent. The absence of a sound becomes a loud message itself, triggering your mind to search for meaning in the emptiness. Neuroscience reveals that the brain's threat detection systems, like the amygdala, react strongly to social uncertainty. Silence from a close contact activates survival mechanisms evolved to detect social rejection or danger. Your mind quickly generates scenarios. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Are they ignoring me? These imagined narratives flood your thoughts, often spiraling into anxiety. Psychological studies show that ambiguous social signals cause more distress than overt negativity because the unknown triggers endless speculation. This is why ghosting or unreturned texts can cause emotional pain comparable to actual conflict. The silence becomes a canvas where fear and hope paint vivid, often conflicting pictures. Understanding this can help regain control. Recognizing silence as a trigger, not a verdict, allows you to resist automatic catastrophizing. Silence is not always intent. Sometimes it's just silence. But your brain will always try to fill the gap. It's wired that way. So next time your phone stays quiet, remember, the loudest message might be the one your mind is inventing. Imagine opening an old journal. The ink faded, but the words sharp. Each page a time capsule holding a version of you that once was, a self that felt deeply but changed over time. Reading these entries isn't simply remembering, it's facing a stranger who shaped you, whose hopes, fears, and mistakes still echo in your present mind. Psychological research reveals that our memories are not fixed snapshots, but evolving stories rewritten each time we recall them. When you revisit past writings, you confront layers of identity, some familiar, some alien, reflecting how you once thought, felt, and saw the world. This can trigger both empathy and discomfort, as you realize parts of yourself have been shed, while others linger invisibly. Journals act like mirrors, reflecting fractured timelines of selfhood, reminding us that identity is fluid, not static. This confrontation can be powerful, offering insights, healing old wounds, or even sparking regret. Yet it also reveals the profound truth that you carry within you many selves, each version living silently inside the present you, waiting to be acknowledged or released. Imagine the way someone treats you. A harsh word, a cold glance, or a warm embrace. It feels deeply personal, as if their behavior reveals something true about who you are. But psychology teaches us a profound truth. Relationships act like mirrors, reflecting more about the other person's inner world than your own reality. Their fears, insecurities, and biases project outward, coloring how they treat you. Yet despite this, we often internalize their actions as reflections of our worth. Neuroscience supports this idea through the brain's social cognition networks, which process others' expressions as if they were truths about ourselves. Mirror neurons amplify this effect, causing us to emotionally absorb and mimic others' attitudes. For example, if someone projects anger or judgment, your brain can respond by feeling shame or self-doubt, even if you did nothing wrong. Psychologists call this the interpersonal feedback loop. Negative treatment creates internalized beliefs, I'm unlovable, or I'm not enough, which shape future behavior and self-perception. This can become a cycle of distortion, where the mirror distorts the image instead of reflecting it accurately. Recognizing that others' treatment reveals their struggles, not your value, is liberating. It allows you to separate your self-worth from their projections. Relationships are mirrors, yes, but they don't define you. Your true reflection lies within your own understanding, compassion, and self-awareness. Imagine chasing a distant point on the horizon, only to realize that the destination keeps shifting, elusive, and ever-changing. Purpose isn't a fixed place you arrive at. It's a compass that guides you through life's uncertain terrain. Psychological studies show that having a sense of purpose profoundly impacts mental health, motivation, and resilience, not because it promises an end, but because it offers direction amidst chaos. Unlike goals, which are concrete and measurable, purpose is fluid, evolving as you grow, adapt, and face new challenges. It's the internal force that keeps you moving forward, even when the path is unclear or the outcome unknown. For example, someone devoted to helping others may shift careers or change methods, but their purpose remains a constant compass steering their choices. Neuroscience reveals that this sense of purpose activates brain regions linked to reward and meaning, providing emotional fuel that sustains effort through setbacks. Accepting that purpose is chosen, not found, frees you from paralysis caused by waiting for clarity or perfection. Instead, it empowers you to make deliberate choices, creating meaning in the moment. So, remember, purpose doesn't wait at a finish line. It's the steady pulse that propels you onward, a compass for the journey rather than a destination to reach. Imagine hearing stories about yourself before you even understand who you are. Labels, expectations, judgments passed down like clothes too big or too small. Your self-image isn't born purely from your own discovery. It's inherited from voices around you, woven from the beliefs, fears, and hopes of those who came before. These handed-down ideas shape how you see yourself long before you can question or decide. Psychology reveals that childhood experiences and family narratives deeply influence identity formation. From parents' words to cultural norms, these early messages act like a blueprint, framing what you believe is possible, acceptable, or true about yourself. Many grow up wearing these inherited beliefs unconsciously, unaware they are costumes rather than skin. Neuroscientifically, the brain's mirror neuron systems and social learning pathways absorb and encode these external perceptions, embedding them into self-concept. Over time, these internalized stories form neural networks that shape your reactions, confidence, and choices. Yet, because they originated outside you, they often don't fit perfectly, causing discomfort, self-doubt, or conflict. Recognizing self-image as inherited is the first step to reclaiming authentic identity. It invites you to try on new beliefs, tailor your sense of self to your own truth, and shed what no longer fits. You are not just the sum of handed-down stories. You are the tailor of your own identity, stitching together a self that fits you perfectly. Imagine waking up to the same challenge or emotion replaying in your life, like a song stuck on repeat. Not because you're failing, but because there's a deeper message your soul refuses to ignore. Life's loops aren't punishments. They're urgent lessons waiting to be learned. Psychology teaches us that repetitive patterns often reveal unresolved emotions or beliefs beneath the surface. Until these are truly felt and understood, the mind and heart keep cycling through the same scenarios, nudging you toward growth. For example, if you repeatedly experience conflict in relationships, It might reflect an inner wound or boundary issue needing attention. Neuroscience shows that emotional learning requires more than intellectual knowing. It demands somatic processing, feeling the pain or truth deeply to rewrite neural pathways. Breaking the loop means embracing discomfort, facing vulnerability, and truly integrating the lesson into your being. This is why awareness alone isn't enough. The heart must catch up with the mind. Recognizing that repetition is a teacher, not a trap, transforms frustration into purpose. So when life feels like a loop, don't despair. You're on the path of meaningful change, circling closer to your breakthrough. Imagine for a moment that without you, the world might simply cease to be, not physically, but in its meaning and existence. Reality, as we experience it, depends fundamentally on perception. Without your awareness, there is no proof the universe continues. It may be silent, unobserved, and effectively non-existent. This is not just philosophical musing, but a concept explored deeply in quantum physics and phenomenology. Quantum experiments show that particles exist in probabilities until observed, the famous observer effect. The act of perception collapses possibilities into reality. In this view, consciousness is not a passive witness, but an active participant shaping the universe. Philosophers like Berkeley argued that existence is tied to being perceived, esse est percipi. To be is to be perceived. Neuroscience reveals that our brain constructs reality from sensory input, assembling an internal model from fragmented data. Without this process, the external world is meaningless noise. You are not merely a resident of the universe, you may be the essential awareness that gives it form and coherence. This challenges the idea of an objective, independent reality. It suggests a profound unity between observer and observed, subject and object. Reality may not exist without you, not because the stars vanish, but because the experience of them depends on your conscious mind. You are both witness and creator, the light that animates the cosmic stage.